It's time for Twit This Week in Tech. Father Robert Ballasare, back from the Vatican, will grace us with his presence. From CNET, Lexi Savides, it's her first time here, be nice. And Lisa Schmeiser here from IT Pro Today. We've got a lot to talk about, including Apple. They just spent $1 billion. You won't believe what they got for that money. The House has finally passed an anti-robocall bill. And Google wants your face. Would you take $5? It's all coming up next on Twit.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Twit This Week in Tech, episode 729. Recorded Sunday, July 28th, 2019. My baby filled her rings. This Week in Tech is brought to you by CashFly. Give your users the seamless online experience they want. Power your site or app with CashFly's CDN and be 30% faster than the competition. Learn more at twit.cashfly.com. And by Stamps.com. Buy and print real U.S. postage the instant you need it right from your desk. For our special offer, go to Stamps.com, click Get Started, and enter Twit. And by Calm, the #1 app to help reduce your stress, relax your mind, and help you sleep. Get 25% off a Calm premium subscription at calm.com/twit. And by Worldwide Technology. Worldwide Technology's Advanced Technology Center is like no other testing and research lab with more than $500 million of equipment, including OEMs like Dell EMC. And it's virtual, so you can access it 24/7. To learn more and get insights into all that it offers, go to wwt.com/twit. It's time for Twit This Week in Tech, the show where we cover the week's tech news with some of the most interesting people in technology, journalism. I don't know how I would categorize Father Robert Ballasare, the digital Jesuit. Down here, we're down here.
Oh, hey.
I know everything up there is more important, but we're down here.
I've been away for so long, I forgot how this works.
Yeah, look at the camera and say, hello, everybody.
Hi.
Robert is detailed out to the Vatican right now, but we are glad to have him. What brings you to the U.S.?
Every once in a while, they let us go away.
Travel?
And August
Let
is
you or make you?
Well, no, they allow us to.
Oh, because it's so hot in Italy.
August is terrible in Rome. It's hot, it's humid, and the wind that blows comes over Africa, so it's sandy. So you get like sandy grit in your hair. And everyone just decides that this is when they're going to take
That's
the
the
away.
Scirocco.
The Scirocco winds, yes.
Yeah. Wow. Well, welcome. So nice to have you. Also with us, Lisa Schmeiser from the fabulous IT Pro Today, where she edits. How do you survive? How do you survive enterprise journalism?
I feel like it's the first draft of tech journalism history, to be honest, because it's the intersection of so many different industries and technology, and you get a chance to see how these technologies are changing the way people do their jobs, people work, and how businesses and societies are structured as a whole.
And
Preach!
really, I mean, if you think you're also an enterprise guy.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you think about cloud, that started first in enterprise, right?
Yeah,
now
that was about 2006, 2007.
So I guess I see what you're saying. You're kind of the leading edge of stuff that will eventually become consumer tech.
I think another good example that's happening right now is IBM and other companies are keeping an eye on global supply chains. And their idea is to help streamline and to make more efficient the movement of, say, lettuce from the field to a Walmart shelf. And this will affect so many different industries in so many different ways. It's not just a matter of being able to tag a head of lettuce and know what farm it comes from. You're also now affecting the way things are harvested, the way food is processed, the way it's shipped, the way it gets onto shelves, how it's tracked, how it's regulated. And so when you see these technologies being rolled out, there's just so many stories you can follow on it.
Okay, you make a good case, but Lexi and I just care about what the next iPhone's going to look like.
That's right. It's all about the latest, greatest, coolest
Lexi
thing
Savides, it's great to have you. First time on, senior editor at CNET, where she covers the good stuff, consumer tech.
All the fun stuff. I like to call it the fun stuff
Yeah,
anyway. It's
me
the stuff
too.
I love,
Me
live and
too.
breathe. So new phones, new gadgets, helping you find and buy the latest and greatest, or the not so latest and greatest, as the case might
Yeah,
be. So
people are
things for all
always
budgets.
asking me, what phone should I get? I don't want to spend $1,000. That's like the #1 question I get on the radio show.
Yeah.
Lexi is, you might detect from down under. But you live here in the Bay Area
I
now.
do. I didn't fly in this morning. Don't worry. I've been here a little while now.
No, there are some people who flew in this morning in the studio, though, and they're a little groggy. I think it's called Robert Ballasare. When did you get here?
I got here about a day and a half ago, and I'm.
So you're still on...
It's 5 o'clock for
Rome
me,
time.
right? 5 p.m. for me right now.
Oh, well, that's not too bad.
Yeah.
Can we get a plate of pasta for Father Robert?
His favorite.
Make him feel at home.
No Italian food while I'm in the States.
So, big story of the week. The DOJ says yes to the Sprint T-Mobile merger. It's not completely over. FCC said yes. DOJ had a lot of restrictions and caveats and requirements. Looks like they're on board now. Now it's just down to a handful, maybe a dozen or so state attorneys general who have been suing because, as everybody was concerned, the lack of competition, losing an entire carrier. But that's what makes this deal, I think, the most interesting. The requirement of the Department of Justice was that Sprint and T-Mobile give their businesses, Boost Mobile and Metro PCS, to Dish. The Dish network, the satellite company. Dish has been, over the last 10 years, buying and not using spectrum. Charlie Ergen, who runs Dish, is quite an iconoclast. Fascinating guy. There was a great piece in the Wall Street Journal this week about Charlie. He was a professional poker player and, in fact, so good at card counting that he was banned from many Vegas casinos. They wouldn't let him play blackjack.
It's not illegal.
But they don't like it.
They don't like it.
He then partnered with his buddy. They put in $60,000 in 1980 to create a big satellite dish company, a 10-foot dish satellite company in Denver. Eventually came up with these smaller hubcap-sized dishes, the Dish Network. They launched satellites competing with cable operators successfully. His $60,000 investment is now worth $9 billion. He's a very wealthy fellow. And I've always thought the poker player tells you a lot about who Charlie Ergen is. I met him when we were doing Tech TV because he invited me to Denver to do it. He has a show on Dish called Charlie Chat. At least he did. I don't know if he still does. And I met him and I was really impressed. Here's the thing I kind of come away with, especially after reading this piece and what I know about Charlie. We are lucky. We live in a world where there are these kind of crazy guys like Elon Musk, maybe Jeff Bezos would be one of those, who are willing to bet the farm, go all in, to use a poker term, push the chips all in on something that is really a risky bet. And this is exactly what Dish is about to do, to launch a new cell phone network in 2019. What do you think, Lexi?
Well, I think the T-Mobile and Sprint merger has sort of been one of those, like, will they, won't they romances.
This is the third time,
This is literally
right?
the third time that this has tried to go through. To actually see it come to fruition, I mean, I think this is probably going to be the final one, and hopefully it is going to actually come to bear fruit.
Do you think it's a good thing for people, or do you think competition will be suffered?
This is a really interesting one because if you look at the history of Sprint and its decisions and how it got to this point so far, it's made a lot of missteps along the way, and I think that this had to happen in order to.
It's a very kind way of putting it.
Misstep, exactly. This really had to happen, and T-Mobile obviously is very, very aggressive in how it's trying to garner customers, and it is a partnership that I guess is really going to work out well because Sprint has what T-Mobile needs in terms of a spectrum. They're really going to complement each other in this way. So I think it is going to be a formidable force to the big two if it's done correctly and if they can attract new customers rather than just keep the existing base that they already have.
It will make the merged companies roughly as big as AT&T and Verizon. We'll have three
on
big
paper,
carriers.
though, that's on paper. And yes, so what T-Mobile gets out of this deal is they get spectrum, and they've been hurting for spectrum. The problem is it's not all the right spectrum. Sprint owns a lot of spectrum throughout the country, but a lot of it was from that failed pseudo 4G rollout. Exactly. And which works well, but it uses up a ton of power. It does not penetrate buildings. And so, yes, you're picking up a big pile of spectrum. Not all of it is going to be usable by every device. So, like you said, they have to do this very carefully. They cannot pitch themselves as, hey, we're just like AT&T and Verizon now. It has to be, no, we're still a disruptive player. We're just bigger combined.
I'd like to know how they're going to handle customer expectations, because you've got two things going on. You're going to have people who use the merger as any excuse to get mad at the company because, well, when I was with T-Mobile, this is what happened, but since they've merged, they've been unresponsive. So that's going to be, a merger is a great engine for customer dissatisfaction. And the second big thing is 5G is rolling out.
Right.
So they're going to be tasked with trying to merge two organizations, keep their customers going, please their investors, and figure out how to position themselves in a market where customers are already saying, I'm not really happy, we're all moving to 5G anyway, what's in it for me to stay with you? So
the big winner, if you ask me, is Dish. And again, this is a gamble of a lifetime. I mean, it's going to cost him $10 billion to do the build out that he needs. But he has this spectrum. He's been kind of quietly and not always to the delight of the FCC or the other carriers buying up this spectrum. He owns some very juicy spectrum. The opportunity, he was, in a sense, in fact, there's a great quote from him in this Wall Street Journal piece. He said, I wasn't going to build an LTE network because I'd have to tear it down in a year. It's much better to start at 5G. And so that's kind of what he's getting to do. And isn't it historically, isn't it always better to not have legacy, but to be able to start with a clean slate doing a new technology?
We saw that in Africa when they started doing the rollout. It several generations past what we did. We've seen that in a large part of Asia. And what Dish gets here is, yes, they've already built up their spectrum, but just like Sprint and T-Mobile, it's spotty. But since T-Mobile is going to have to sell over their smaller, their MVNOs, what Dish will get is the ability to put those patches together through other carriers' networks.
I don't think Dish even wants the MVNOs. They're doing this to satisfy the requirements the FCC and the DOJ said, you've got to have a cell carrier up and running next year. Otherwise, there's a big fine. So they're going to, this is kind of a stopgap. I don't think they care about Boost. I don't think they care about Metro. They really care about 5G. In fact, Ergen says wireless pricing is broken. U.S. carriers have people paying for unlimited data plans they don't need. He says that's just like the cable companies that we disintermediated, forcing subscribers to pay for bundles of TV channels. He says this is deja vu for us all over again. One of the things he wants to do is, and this is, so Dish is going to be the scrappy underdog that T-Mobile
They're the new
was.
T-Mobile.
Yeah.
And one of the things he's going to do is, for instance, offer lower cost data at night, in the middle of the night when nobody else is using it.
Wait a minute, but we live in a 24/7 world. How is that pricing going to work out? Are they going to tie it to your location?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, that's, you could do that technologically. He's going to focus on businesses.
So if you're like a telecommuter whose home base is in another country, this is sweet for you.
I think it really is more for businesses who might have a lot of connectivity they want to do.
Right.
Just as right now, if you're charging an electric car, you charge in the middle of the night, right, Lisa?
Yeah.
So you might be, if there's a lot of data you need to download, you might do that in the middle of the night. The other thing he says is he sees automotive as a huge business. 5G, all the cars, new cars are going to have 5G built in. It's how autonomous vehicles are going to communicate with one another. I think there's a big opportunity for him. Yes, a big risk, but he's gambling.
That's a fixed wireless play, because fixed wireless, you can make it work at the times that you want it to work. Both of us come from the enterprise world, and there's times when you need massive amounts of bandwidth, and that normally happens off hours.
What I'm thinking is another one of the enterprise lessons that I've had is the person who establishes how things are done is the one who gets to effectively dictate the terms of the industry. And so if he establishes the customer and the user experience for
a brand new sector, 5G.
Yes, exactly. Then everybody else has, we've seen this with smartphones. We've seen this with cloud-based apps. We've seen the
look how Apple's dominated, because in 2007 they said this is what a smartphone is. This is how smartphones should work. And
look at, although I love Google Apps and I use them a lot, but you have to admit that most of the metaphors that
started with Apple.
Well, they actually start with Microsoft too. Microsoft Excel to
and they've
Google
done
Sheets.
so well in mobile, haven't they?
Well,
Lexi,
that's neither here nor there.
Is this going to be, as somebody buying? Should I now say, oh, I'm going to look at Dish as my next carrier, or if I'm a T-Mobile customer, should I worry? If I'm a Sprint customer,
well, this is going to be interesting to see, like, the incentives that these carriers are going to offer to both keep existing customers and then also to entice new people to switch. I mean, T-Mobile and Sprint have both been really aggressive in terms of packaging deals, such as free Netflix subscriptions as a sweetener, lots of bundles, cheaper rates. And so I think Dish is in a really unique position here to sort of to do one of two things: to either go, yes, we're going to offer bundles, we're going to offer lots of discounts and trying to entice you over, or they're going to go completely the other way and just really be incredibly aggressive in trying to get new customers and just make it exactly as we were talking about, like having discounted rates off hours, really things that the other carriers aren't doing to really differentiate themselves and really give themselves a reason for people to switch over to them.
That could also be bad, though, because we're starting to see the start of carriers that are also vertically integrated with distribution companies / content companies that are leveraging that vertical integration to say, hey, if you're on our network, you get X, Y, and Z for free. And we know you like Game of Thrones or you like whatever's going to come after Game of Thrones. You get that free through our bandwidth versus Dish. And then Dish is going to say, well, we've got agreements with so-and-so who have these shows that you love.
Yeah.
And I really hate this idea of fragmenting content just because the carriers want a reason why you sign with them.
Yeah. We're seeing that with podcasting, with Spotify saying we're going to have exclusives, Apple now, we're going to have exclusives. That's bad for everybody. That helps the companies maybe, but it doesn't help listeners at all.
There has to be a tipping point, though, because we sort of saw this with streaming services, maybe 5-6 years ago when we had all of the competitors come out. We had the Audios, we had, Pandora's, obviously Spotify, the big players, and then the smaller streaming companies. They have to consolidate.
There was a shakeout, wasn't there?
There was a huge shakeout. There is a tipping point. And unfortunately, I think we just have to go through that moment until we find the big players that come out, because we can't have feasibly all of these. I mean, if you just think about how many subscriptions that you have now to streaming services in general, I can't even count it on one hand.
It's becoming, what's interesting is it's becoming a growing topic of conversation among people where they talk about how many streaming services, and now they're starting to ask more, well, we're looking at which ones to get rid of.
The other day I saw a guy justify pirating Star Trek Discovery. He said, because I don't care what happens, I am never paying for CBS All Access. Ever paying.
Well, here's another
and I understand that point of view. I just have skipped Star Trek Discovery.
I was sitting at my daughter's swim team practice, and a bunch of folks were talking, and I generally don't cop to what I do for a living, because it's just easier to...
It just gets it,
But
then they say, I got this pain on the side, and I need you to... No,
but what was interesting is they were talking about the Disney Plus streaming service, which is going to come out. And all of these people, to a person, were saying, well, I'm having a discussion now. Do we drop Netflix or do we drop Hulu?
Now, if you have kids, it's different. Because the kids are going to watch it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And the Marvel stuff is moving over to Disney Plus, and so is Star Wars. So that's potent. But we're going to see a lot of shakeouts.
I'm not killing Netflix because I can't watch The Office on Netflix anymore. I think most of us are passive enough. Whatever they got, we'll watch. I'll watch that, whatever that is.
Or like you make a New Year's resolution, or for example, I have a friend who
you have to make that decision though.
Every Black Friday, my friend goes through her inbox and sees which vendors have sent her sale emails, and then she just hits unsubscribe. Like that's her little post-Thanksgiving ritual is to do that. And maybe there are people where their New Year's resolution will be, okay, let's review all of the streaming and subscription services I belong to and get out. Maybe we'll get to that point, but I'm more inclined to believe that we'll get to another point where people start saying, do I really want to pay for the streaming service where all it is British detective shows? By the way, I would pay for that service. Do I really want to pay for this hyper
Isn't that
niche?
You subscribe to
or
BritBox?
Acorn or
So
they'll consolidate. They'll bundle the same way cable will. It's going to be like a beautiful circle.
It's a
of content
circle
life.
because you get this unbundling, and then you get bundling because people don't want the unbundling. All of a sudden, we thought that was a good idea, and it's not. I have to say, I think in the long run, this is going to be good for competition. I think in the short run, as you point out, it's not necessarily good for competition. But I love getting. I'm going to subscribe to Charlie Ergen's Twitter feed because I think he's the next Elon Musk. I love getting one more iconoclastic kind of wild man in the mix. These people inspire me. They're willing to take big, risky gambles, and they can change the world, or they can crash and burn. But either way, it's a fun show.
Sure is. Just wait till it's
more crashing than changing. But
well,
that's how it's always
Elon.
been.
Look at Elon. I mean, I think Elon Starlink. Forget going to Mars. Forget even Tesla. Starlink, his bid to put these low Earth orbit satellites up and give gigabit internet service to every corner of the world. that could be the final play that makes T-Mobile, AT&T, Sprint, and Verizon completely useless.
Oh, okay.
The One World Network's run by one guy who...
Yeah.
I've got
There's
an
nothing
iron
wrong
in
with
that
that at all,
fire.
of course.
Do you?
Well, just because, so we run like the Vatican Observatory and the chain of observatories that do a lot
You
of...
do not want to see 12,000 low Earth orbit satellites.
If you get 12,000 high albedo low Earth orbit satellites,
never see the star again.
You can't see anything. It effectively kills
pretty at
terrestrial
sunset,
astronomy.
though.
Yeah.
Well, that's the problem.
Kind of like Vegas and the grasshoppers in the pyramid. It's going to be gorgeous. Wait till you see. All right.
Oh.
Aw.
No, it sounds very
I didn't
sad.
think about that. Are the astronomers up in arms?
yeah.
It's too late.
It will kill Earth-based astronomy. If you put 12,000 highly reflective objects in orbit, it kills it.
Well, this sounds like you're now facing it for the Jeff Bezos versus Elon Musk fight because Jeff Bezos
wants to
wants
put
into
thousands
space.
too.
He wants into space, and Elon wants the satellites that will kill Earth-based astronomy.
If Elon wants to put those satellites, that's great, but he has to pay for an observatory in orbit. So that there we
We'll
go.
make that
That's
deal.
a trade-off. That's a trade-off.
Okay. And you want to be up there.
I want to be up there.
I know you do.
I can run IT.
I feel like the Vatican Space Observatory is both a fantastic science fiction idea and like a dream job.
Almost like a space force.
Actually, the Jesuits have a long and kind of glorious history in science.
We were in an episode of The Outer Limits.
Really?
Do you remember? Okay, so this is for people of a certain age. There was an episode of The Outer Limits where a priest goes off because he finds a signal from a supernova, shows up there light years away and finds out that the entire civilization was devastated by the explosion of a nearby sun. And that happened to be the light that was seen during the birth of Christ. It was an Outer Limits episode way back.
That's heavy.
And that was a Jesuit. So
That's heavy.
I just keep thinking about Jesuits in space.
That's Schmeiser. Lisa Schmeiser from IT Pro Today.
Yes, very serious about the IT.
Very serious about enterprise technology.
Yes.
Great to have
future.
Lexi also with us from CNET, Father Robert from the Vatican. I like saying that. Our show today brought to you quite literally by CashFly. If you subscribe to any Twit podcast, if you download it from our website, you're actually downloading it through our content delivery network. We have the best, CashFly. If you deliver content or apps to customers over the internet, a CDN can make such a difference. Give your customers the seamless experience they want. Power your site or app with the CashFly CDN. You'll be 30% faster than the competition, and it will cost you less, no matter what business you're in. If your website's tied to company revenue, give your customers the fast downloads they need with CashFly. Media-rich content 10 times faster than traditional delivery methods, up to 30% faster than the other guys, the other CDNs. And because CashFly has servers all over the world, they can offer a 100% SLA. I'm not talking 11 nines. I'm talking 100%. That's an infinite number of nines. Perfect reliability. That means I never get a call at 3 in the morning saying the server's down. CashFly guarantees the best user experience for all your customers, no matter what or where they are. Join the thousands of others who trust CashFly's reliable network. It's not just us. LG, Microsoft, Adobe, Ars Technica, all use CashFly. And the other thing I really like, I don't get billing spikes because CashFly works with you on your yearly usage. We have very spiky, as you might imagine, bandwidth needs. Sunday night, Monday morning, when everybody downloads Twit, that's when we get a big spike, and then it's quiet for a little while, then I get another spike with Mac Break Weekly. And that, if I had to constantly log in and make sure we hadn't exceeded our monthly quotas, would be nightmarish. But I don't, because I have a custom plan. In fact, customers who switch to CashFly save more than 20% on average. Right now, you can get a complimentary detail analysis, no pressure, no sales. They'll just tell you, they'll look at your CDN bill, they'll look at your usage trends, and they'll tell you if they can save you 20% or more at CashFly. I bet they can. Take advantage of this, twit.cashfly.com. We thank you, CashFly, for bringing Twit to our listeners. Painlessly for me, painlessly for them. Twit.cashfly.com. And I have to say, if you can get a podcast 3 seconds faster, you're probably going to listen to it more. No, I'm making that up.
That's actually not far from the truth, though.
Well, if I have to wait, I might switch. I might go to another one. I don't like to wait. No one likes to wait. Hey, so you guys, with surprising alacrity, got through the Sprint T-Mobile discussion. That was quite good. I'm excited. Are you T-Mobile, Lexi?
No.
What do you use?
I am on Verizon.
Verizon?
Same.
Lisa?
Also Verizon.
T-Mobile, all the way.
Yeah, I have all of them. But
Well, naturally.
you know what? I worry a little bit about Google Fi. because they ride on T-Mobile and Sprint, right? Yeah. And U.S. Cellular. So I don't know what's going to happen to Google Fi, but I think that's actually probably one of the best deals.
They can't kill it immediately because then they would run into all sort of
I think that they said that the MVNOs will be
That's when like a little alert goes off in an office somewhere.
Mint Mobile, which is our sponsor, I have Mint. Mint's an amazing deal. $300 for 12 gigs a month. $300 a year for 12 gigs a month.
Jeez.
And I had that on my OnePlus 7. I love it, but they also ride on T-Mobile. I don't know what's going to happen. I guess they have to keep those contracts.
I have the best plan ever.
Who's that?
TIM, the telecom in Italy, which works all through Europe. It's 20 gigs, unlimited talk and text, including international. It costs €5 a month.
Oh, man.
€5?
Yeah. And you have, because the EU, you have EU roaming, right?
I roam, yeah.
So that was one of the requirements.
Get my order history so I can come up with my...
You don't want to know, trust me. You don't want to know. So Apple's spending $1 billion, they can afford it.
Of course.
To buy Intel's smartphone business. We knew this would be the upshot, right? So the timeline of this is hysterical. So Apple sues Qualcomm, saying, you don't license the stuff to us cheaply enough. They were going to pay $1 billion to Qualcomm. They stopped payment. Qualcomm countersues. This goes on for years. All of a sudden. Meanwhile, by the way, I forgot to mention this part. Apple calls up, I think Jeff Williams at Apple calls up the CEO of Intel and says, you have to make 5G modems for us. You have to. You have to. Intel says, we don't want to. We don't want to. You have to. So Intel goes, okay. They drag their feet. They really don't want to make these. Apple, I think at some point there must have been an internal memo. This is the smoking gun we haven't seen, where Intel says, yeah, we're probably not going to have those till 2022 or 2023. We're having some trouble making them. So boom, all of a sudden Apple says to Qualcomm, forget it. Here's your money. We promise we're going to license through 2025. We're going to be using your 5G modems. Thank you. The next day, Intel says, and we're out of the business. That's it. We didn't want to do it in the first place, but they have a lot of patents. 2,200 Intel employees will go over to Apple. Those are the engineers working on this ill-fated 5G effort. 17,000 patents. 17,000 patents will go over. Intel will retain the ability to develop modems for non-smartphone applications like PCs, Internet of Things devices, and autonomous vehicles, to which Intel probably says, yeah, but don't count on it. And Apple's going to start working on their own 5G stuff for the phones. $1 billion. This kind of had to be the final piece in that puzzle, right?
Well, Apple has always had the philosophy of owning the core technology.
Make it ourselves.
And the processor has been a sore spot for that because they're always licensing it out. Now they own not just the technology, but they've got all those patents. So they've got a war chest, which means even if they choose to use
Lisa keeps doing the vertical.
Well,
non-vertical technologies.
All the way from design
vertical
to
integration.
To the retail experience. There is no part of that experience where they're vulnerable to outside forces anymore. And from a business perspective, that's great for them.
However, there is one thing, which is Intel didn't want to work on this, not just because they were being mean. It was because all of their testing showed that the current 5G standards that are out there, they suck power. They are horrible for power. So how do you squeeze a 5G radio into a device that's already very power limited? Qualcomm has something that they're calling 5G. It's not really the same. Qualcomm's big tagline at CES was true 5G. What does that actually mean? We don't actually know what that means.
I think we'll find out like in December. They usually do a really big meet and greet for people who are in mobile in December in Hawaii. And my sense is that they're probably going to queue up whatever they've got going there. So we'll find out by the end of the year. But it's a good point about power suck because phones are now people's primary computing devices. And if you're like, well, good news, you have 5G, bad news, you have to recharge every 8 hours.
Exactly. Well, no, it wouldn't be, like what they were saying, they were seeing a 200 to 300% power spike.
Wow.
At maximum 5G bandwidth. So what good is it to have a nice phone that you can only use for half an hour before you had to plug it back in?
Well, this is another thing is how many end users, or I should say how many civilian end users pay a lot of attention to which apps drain their batteries?
Can I point out that I think bandwidth's pretty fast on LTE, and it's for mobile seems to be fast enough. People are watching movies. what is this? This demand doesn't seem to be coming from
Edge computing.
consumers.
No, it's edge computing. It's the idea that if you're out working oil fields or agriculture or
Right.
mining or someplace like that, and you have intermittent connectivity at best, when you do have it, you need small portable devices, and you need to send and receive information quickly, often under very
But that's
urgent
not
circumstances.
what Apple's 5G iPhone
No, not
is
Apple's
for,
5G.
or Samsung's 5G
I
Galaxy,
guarantee you these
or-
guys are going to want to bring this stuff in the field, though. Apple gets it into the enterprise because users love the experience, and they're going to bring it in, and they're like, well, can't you make it work?
What is Samsung using in its 5G Galaxy? Are they must be using? Are they using their own Exynos platform?
I doubt it. Their
They're using
Exynos is one
Qualcomm?
of the most unstable pieces of silicon on the market.
I don't have a 5G phone because we don't have 5G carriers. But do people who have 5G phones and 5G carriers complain about battery life?
Yes,
They do.
constantly.
Yeah, it's
right.
a huge deal.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is this may be pointless. This whole thing, right?
Well, 5G really makes sense if you want to replace a wired connection in a fixed location. That 100%. That's a better way to run it, an easier way for you to run it. But for me to have to walk around with a 5G radio that's using up power for bandwidth I probably don't need for what I'm doing on my mobile, that's not a great value
so why
proposition
is
for me.
Apple spending $1 billion?
Because 5G is bigger than 4G.
It's one more.
I was doing one more G.
No,
Is it
maybe
too
it's
fast?
Also, maybe it's also just they enjoy, not enjoy, but it's a core business value to bring everything in
latest-
house as
Yeah.
much as possible
It
and
is.
reassert control. And
you know
since
what the
they're since they're already dominating the mobile experience, for them perhaps this is them saying, all right, we've eliminated all possible variables where another company can hose our product
they
cycle.
were mad at
or anything
Intel.
like
They've
that.
been
Yeah.
mad at Intel for generations.
Yeah, I mean, Intel's been kind of screwing the pooch on this since 2016.
But at the same
least.
time, it feels like maybe we're rushing this whole 5G thing, and that and Apple has never been another core value of Apple is not been to be the first with any new technology, but
No,
to
it's-
wait.
yeah.
It's
right?
to establish the user experience.
Yes, and when 5G is ready,
Yeah.
Video on mobile pushed 4G. There is no killer app for 5G yet. There's
Well, there's
nothing
no killer-
I want to
yeah.
do on my mobile.
There's no
but-
killer consumer app. I'm willing to bet that we're going to see a lot in
I'm sure
computing for
enterprise,
Right.
100%.
And all Android major manufacturers have 5G plans or have 5G phones available and will do by the end of this year. So Apple obviously won't have a 5G phone this year, we don't think. We sort of have rumors that there will be a 2020 5G phone. And so I think from the Apple perspective for both investors and consumers, if they don't have a 5G plan in place, they're going to see as being behind the curve.
they'll look laggard.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So they have to have that in store.
See, that's a weird thing because Apple has never worried about that before.
The other thing I'd like to bring up is we're
This
talking
is a
about
different
this.
Apple in a different environment.
We're
isn't it?
talking about a really U.S.-centric perspective when it comes to 5G and killer apps and user experiences and things like that. And you tossed aside a comment earlier talking about how Africa effectively leapfrogged broadband bandwidth and went straight to mobile experience. We don't know that Apple's not doing this because this helps them to position their products more effectively in the Asian markets, where they have a much different mobile user experience than the U.S. has. We have to stop assuming that the U.S. is the primary market for any tech
Yeah,
company.
it's not anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's just strange that Apple is rushing in to offer a 5G product when the 5G standard has not yet been established.
They are betting a lot on China in the future, though, and they're also. And I would be willing to speculate that they're probably also taking a look at how they can position a 5G or 5G adjacent phone in countries where Apple is not embraced to the same extent as Samsung or other Android-based phones.
But I mean, the best Apple, the most incredible Apple, the most innovative Apple has always been the one that said, we don't care if you're first, we're going to do it better.
Yeah.
And the fact that we don't really know what 5G should look like now, it tells me this is not something Apple should get in right now.
Who is the number one manufacturer of 5G network infrastructure? Huawei.
Yeah.
China Mobile apparently has big plans for 5G. Commercial rollout is October 1st. They expect 5G. I didn't know. I was curious when you said that. They expect China to be the leading 5G market very, very quickly in the next few years. So for whatever reason, maybe because they don't have all the LTE infrastructure in place and they can leapfrog. I don't know.
They also have super dense cities, which works much better for 5G.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of rural
Global
areas
towers,
where 5G just does not make sense because you're using a tower per person connected.
Is it also the case that mobile computing in China, India, Japan is computing?
Yes.
Yep.
Absolutely. Don't forget Korea. That's a big one, especially South Korea.
Whereas we have desktops and laptops, we're computer focused. Yeah. In those countries, mobile is the primary computing platform.
I also
look
think
at
that
WeChat,
we're computer
look at Line.
focused is a generational thing too, because almost all of us grew up with
laptops
and desktops as our primary interface. But if you look at how kids are learning computing now, it's tablets,
mobile,
and phones. Yep. So
let me ask something of the entire panel, which is when you see a journalist working in a press room with a tablet on like a keyboard stand.
I laugh.
Do you giggle? Do you think, wow, what is wrong with you?
I laugh at myself a lot.
Is that
that's what you do?
Oh. I always feel like, now you can correct me, Lisa, but I always feel like it's a square peg in a round hole, that we're so invested in making that iPad be a usable computer that we're kind of stretching, and it's hard. Everything's harder.
I think it depends on why and how you use it. I don't do a lot of video editing, and I don't do a lot
iPad's actually pretty good at that.
It's really good for video. Yeah.
I don't do a lot of image stuff. I do text. And I file
I guess you could write on anything.
But I mean, I do a lot of
I
using on my lap, actually, like during a keynote. I can't do that with a tablet on a
This is
keyboard
way
tray.
too big. Whereas if I have my iPad, it's easy for me to rest it on one leg and then have my phone on the other with Otter AI going, so I can do things that way. And then
Otter is a dictation tool that you can record, and it will give you a transcript back of the meeting.
And the transcript's kind of hilarious because
is it not great?
Oh gosh, the transcript is a great way to help you understand language acquisition. Actually, but
so it's automated. It's not human. It's machine translation.
But in some of the events
like
I've been in, the chairs are tiny and you're cheek by jowl with lots of people, and you don't want to be throwing elbows. And I found it much easier. For example, the last time I was at CES, I pretty much used my iPad exclusively.
Interesting.
But I will also add, I was lucky enough to go up to Microsoft for like 3 days a couple months ago and get briefed on Azure.
And what did they say when you were using your iPad at Microsoft?
They were okay with it because they actually used my MacBook for that.
Okay.
And because we had room, they gave us lots of room.
A lot of people use Macs at Microsoft. Yeah. They don't care anymore.
Well, it was nice
really
because
don't
I
care
could work.
anymore.
They gave me a Surface as a loaner too,
that's
so
nice.
I was able to move back and forth.
Microsoft is a cloud company. They're a services
That's
company.
right.
But
They're
the
not a
fact
Windows
that
company
Microsoft
anymore.
was like, here, have a Surface and try out and see how you like this tablet experience. I was like, this is where we're going.
Yeah.
Surface
that's
is
interesting.
nice.
Yeah.
So
it spoiled me because it's such a great quasi laptop experience, and I liked being able to drop and drag with my fingers and pinch in and zoom out. And then I went back to my MacBook and did that and was like, what in the...
But that's what the touch bar is supposed to be for.
Oh,
no,
please.
don't get me started on the touch
No,
bar.
no.
I noticed you're saddled with a touch bar.
I am saddled with a touch bar. To my chagrin, it doesn't do anything that I need it to do. The touch bar has been one of those big things for the MacBook.
I agree.
That and the keyboard.
Do you like the keyboard?
So for me, I haven't experienced any problems that people have reported with
But
the
how do you
butterfly
like typing?
functionality. It's fine. So someone commented that I'm a very loud typer.
Yes,
in the
because
middle of a
that.
keynote, and I didn't feel like this was actually at an Apple event. I was sitting there in the keynote, and then someone was like, "Shh, you're typing too loud."
She's got the butterfly 3 keyboard. It's not her fault.
I like to put the full-on mechanical, like cherry
So
switches,
we got-
so it
we
sounds like a
got-
typewriter.
On this platform, on this table, we have 3 MacBook Pros, 2 with function keys, 1 with a touch bar, and 1 Surface Studio.
No, wait, no, this is not a MacBook.
Oh, what is that?
This is an Acer. This is a
It looks
Windows
exactly like a MacBook.
So I think this is
Wait a
Acer on the
minute, hold
front.
on, see?
I was wondering what the third MacBook was, and I
Looks
didn't want to say
just
anything.
like a MacBook. I'm sorry.
It kind of does. It's
Boy,
like
that
classic
design
MacBook.
language, Apple started that, didn't they?
Yeah.
So that actually raises an interesting issue. Apple is kind of in a intermediary state where they're making this issue of, well, Intel's been a problem partner for us. They've slowed down development of new Macintosh computers. The general consensus is they're going to make their own whatever chips for desktop computing. Jean-Louis Gasset, who used to be an Apple vice president, he was with B. Remember, he went out to start BOS and writes, I think, some really good opinion pieces in his Monday note. He's been thinking about this, and he says, after last week's thought experiment on the Mac's future, I realized leaving the x86 processor family makes little sense. A pleasing fantasy, but too complicated. He says, honestly, as long as Apple makes Macs, it's going to have to use Intel chips. But that doesn't mean Apple's future lies with Intel because of the iPadOS fork. That he thinks iPadOS is really where, and I have always thought this, where Apple's heart lies, right? And he says it's just not going to make sense for Apple to abandon Intel. They're going to still, how are you going to make a Mac Pro with 32 cores or an iMac Pro with 10 cores out of an ARM chip? There's no point. There's no point.
I mean, you've used ARM-powered computers before.
They're terrible.
They're just
no, I admit
good.
they could get better. I don't think RISC is necessarily not as good. It's just that the ARM isn't focused on these fast, big pipelines. It's focused on low power and other things. So he says there is a fork in the iOS world, which is the iOS versus iPadOS. And he says as iPadOS lets iPads gain more use cases, especially in the realm of productivity, iPhones will stay in the mainstream of iOS. That's what he sees. He says really Apple doesn't want to support 2 platforms, ARM and Intel, but they're actually going to have to support 3.
But it makes sense to do that because the user base for the x86 Apple users
That's not going to change.
It's actually quite
It's tiny.
Small. And it's even smaller when you look at where the profit comes from. So for them, it's not really worth the pain to try to migrate everything over, encourage all the developers
For
to
a
redevelop their applications.
tiny market.
It's just, no, don't do that.
And frankly, as a coder, I'm not going to use an iPad ever.
No.
I'm going to use a computer with a real keyboard. Well, anyway, it's an interesting...
You are, but, again, I'm
you think
saying
there's a
that-
generation of coders coming up that are going to write the next generation of Apple software on an iPad?
I do, or at least a tablet, because
Maybe.
they're going to be used to the experience where they expect to be able to input in a lot of different ways. And
Apple has created this artificially, though, because I have touch
yeah,
on my
I also think that
Surface. You have touch on your Acer.
You've now got generations of school kids who have come up learning how to code through GUIs like Minecraft or other. I forget the Google platform where they're teaching kids how to code by effectively having them plot out how a program works with little graphical interfaces where they can learn
it's a
how
drag
to
and drop interface. Yeah.
And I think we will probably always have a need for somebody to write the alphanumeric sequences that make the pretty blocks that you drag and drop. But
Yeah, I'm not going to program with 30 blocks.
I suspect that programming applications has gotten to a point in the field's development where it's low code, no code apps, and those can be purely GUI based, and they don't necessarily need a keyboard. They just need a method to drag and drop and put things together.
We are, as you pointed out, Lexi, starting to hear rumors about this fall's iPhone. That makes sense. They're probably already making it, right?
Oh, yeah. And we even know stuff about the 2020 iPhone, supposedly.
Right.
I mean,
Min
there's
Chi
just...
Kuo says that's the 5G.
Yeah,
and all
that's
that,
supposedly the 5G. So what we do know about this year's iPhone is that it will probably be very similar to what we already know. So there'll be 3 models. There'll be one to replace the XS, the XS Max, and the XR. Hopefully they'll change it to iPhone 11 rather than XI, because the number of times I go and people are like, oh, what do you think of the XS? And I was like, in the discord in my brain, because I have to say it the way that Apple says it, the XS, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's what you mean.
I used, for the longest time, call my Tesla Model X a Model 10. It's very confusing.
Apple should just switch to like Greek lettering. So the next iPhone is.
So here's my
iPhone
big
Alpha.
disappointment. It looks like it's going to be Lightning again.
Yes, so there's no signs that it's USB-C like the iPad. Why? The screens don't seem that they're going to get a significant bump. If
Still
any,
OLED?
All resolution. What the most interesting thing though is the cameras on the new iPhones, because Apple has made leaps and bounds, I think, over the past year at least, with their move to computational photography with the iPhone. And it's something that we're going to see potentially 3 cameras on the back of the new iPhone. So there'll be the regular wide telephoto lens like the iPhones already have, except for the XR, which only has that single lens. But there's going to be likely a 3rd lens, which is an ultra wide angle lens. And this is really interesting.
I love that on my
It's
S10 Plus.
on the P30
I use
Pro.
that all the time.
It's a really, once you have it, you don't realize how much you were missing out on before. So what we're probably going to see on the iPhone, at least from the rumors, is that this ultra wide angle lens is potentially going to be able to capture more detail than is actually presented in the frame to the user. And then you can basically go in and choose to have that extra data presented in a wider frame if you want to.
Oh, that's interesting.
And then
It
throw
is
away
kind of
that extra
magical.
information
The first time
afterwards.
you do that and you like refocus an image,
Yeah.
You're just going, I never want to move back to regular
But
photography.
hasn't Google done the best with a single lens on its Pixel 3? I mean, that...
The Pixel 3 is the one to beat, but also the P30 Pro, the Huawei P30 Pro, if you've used that.
We don't use that here in America.
The low
I
light,
have used
low
it.
light on the
It's-
P30 is pretty incredible.
The low light on the P30 is incredible, and that's where Apple really needs to play catch up, I think. The low light and the ultra wide angle, because Apple has always been king of video, absolutely.
Right.
Like you shoot video 4K on the iPhone, we put it side by side with stuff that we shoot on our production cameras at CNET, and it looks
It's amazing.
very similar.
It's amazing.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does such great
Is
stuff.
Google's night sight better than the Huawei, or is Huawei catching up?
It's slightly different in the way it works.
Okay.
I think the Pixel has a lot more computational smarts there. The Huawei
It has its own processor dedicated
Yeah,
to it.
absolutely. The Huawei does an incredible job, and you can literally see things in the dark. Like I did lots
That's
of
kind of
test
amazing.
shots. It's creepy
Yeah.
how well it sees in the dark. But Apple phones
it's
don't
the
do
camera
well
for
in the dark.
stalkers.
Yeah.
What do you see when you turn off the lights? I don't know, but it's creepy. Are you using the
I would look
OnePlus?
for my
This is a
phone.
OnePlus 6.
I like the 7 a lot.
7 is nice. The one thing I will not give up is an audio port. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I am a
3.5, yeah.
3.5 mil, especially where I live now, where you need that to interface it with things. I'm not going to carry around.
That's
the phone.
another sad thing for me. The next week is the Note 10 announcement. We're going to cover that. We'll stream it live and talk about it. And Samsung Galaxy Note 10 Unpacked event is what is that? August 7th.
They've removed all buttons.
Apparently,
So brave.
not only have they removed buttons, they've removed courage.
Courage.
The headphone jack.
Oh, so much courage.
What? This is the main reason that I still use a Galaxy phone is the
It's the
headphone
headphone jack.
And I
Yeah.
hate when they say, "Oh, we had to remove it to make it waterproof."
They didn't.
That's totally not true. 100% not true.
But then you get a stylus. So, it's
well.
trade-off.
Leo has history with Styli.
Yeah,
Styli.
remember. I don't know if you remember when the was it the S7,
It was a
the Note 7.
right, yeah.
If you put the stylus in backwards, was it the 5?
Note 5.
You
You
broke
put the
it?
stylus in.
And he did it on air during a show.
The story was everybody was saying, "Don't put it in backwards; it'll break it." So I
And so
said,
Leo's
"Well,
like, "Oh, okay."
Really?
Let's see.
It will? Yeah.
It did.
Nice, yeah.
It totally did.
And then I thought I brought it to T-Mobile. I said I broke it, and they said, "Yes, you did."
You sure did.
Well done, no new
I
phone.
said, "Well, what are you going to do about it?" They said, "Well, I don't know. What?"
We could yank that thing out.
I still think Samsung should lean right into the earlier disaster this year and just debut the Samsung origami. Just
That's
right.
right.
Just
So
right
the
away.
Fold is coming out in September.
Yes. Finally.
But T-Mobile says, "Yeah, this time we're not carrying it." So there's not a lot of confidence, is there?
No.
They've changed the design. They've actually just taken
Yeah.
two S10s and they've taped
Just
them
like
together.
glued them together. Folds back up. And,
It should
There's
work
like
better.
a hinge they got.
Did
at
you
Home
guys
Depot.
get the Fold?
so we had the Fold. We were one of the few outlets that didn't
Didn't break it?
experience any issues. Well, we didn't peel protective film off, but we didn't have any issues with it at all. But other people absolutely did. And this was the reason why they had to go back to the drawing board and recraft it. And I was wondering, for everybody that had a pre-order for the Fold, there was I was actually one of those people. I did pre-order it. And,
I did too.
Yeah. And it was just like this endless delay of, will I get an email saying my pre-order's been cancelled? And then I'll get an email. It's like, click here to make sure that you still want the Fold. And I thought, okay, it's been, 50 days, 60 days, 70 days. I think it's
took them
89
that
days.
long?
I think it's been 89 days since since the first issue that they actually made the announcement. And so, yes, the pre-orders are still active if you got it from
What?
Samsung. Yes, I checked because I got the email that says your pre-order is still active. And
Do
I
you
was
have your
great.
$2,000
days
still
later you
ready
got
to?
it?
That's a problem for future Lexi to look after.
So the Fold is the new Duke Nukem. It will just always be preparing for shipment.
I believe it's going to come out, but the real question is who is going
Why
to buy
weren't they
it?
more proactive with the
$2,000.
customer experience?
They
That's a
stretched
really-
the coating around more so you wouldn't be tempted to peel it off. They put some bumpers on the ends of the hinges so stuff couldn't get into it as it did with the verges. Do you think that's enough?
It has to be. They cannot afford another issue because you look at the Note 7 with 2 recalls.
Yeah.
They can't afford that.
That was the battery.
Yeah, that was
exploding.
battery. So Samsung has to get it right this time because Samsung is a brand that has so many devoted followers. If you look at the people that love the Note line, Samsung acknowledges how dedicated this user base is. And I think it has to be similar with the Fold, people that are willing to hand over $2,000 on this new phone. you know, they're so interested in having the latest and greatest. And this is a radical new category. We haven't seen anything this crazy in terms of phone design for at least, you know, 10 plus years. We're so used to just the straight design that we see iPhone, Samsung's, every other phone with. So for Samsung, this is a huge deal, and I hope it works, because even though I played with the Fold a little bit when
did it appeal to you? Because a lot of people, when they first saw it, said, I get it. This is good.
It does. You get it. And you didn't I didn't quite see the need for it just yet. But when I started, you know, flipping between views of, okay, I had a nice big map open on when I had the phone unfolded, and I flipped it back, and then I had a smaller view. It just made sense. But again, I literally spent 15 minutes with it. So I didn't have the full use of it, but there is so much potential there. And
we'll have future Lexi on with her
Future
Galaxy
Lexi
Fold.
will come on with the folds and show you if I agree with past Lexi.
I've been really, you know, I go back and forth about whether I should get it. I feel like I don't want to. I really don't want to.
But I mean, it's interesting.
It's interesting.
It is the coolest thing that
we'll
has
never
come out
see
of phone design
Huawei's
in the last
now,
10
which
years.
is sad. Huawei had a very interesting trifold design. Who else is it? ZTE that showed one. I don't think they announced it, but they showed
There's
one.
another company as well. I've totally blanked on the name. But
there's one I always want to call it the Profiterole.
Profiterole.
It's not. It's the Royale.
That's the one. Royal. Yes, the Royal. Profiterole.
But it kind of is a Profiterole of phones. That one sank without.
Where I would like to see a foldable screen would be on a laptop. If I could fold out a second screen.
Oh my gosh,
Well, they
yes.
do make
Fold
those.
They kind of do, but it's really just a second screen attached.
It's like a transformer laptop. It goes
Right. But it would make more sense because it's larger, which means you're going to put less force on the crease. It also means it's going to be opening and closing a lot less than a mobile phone.
Right.
Here is a video of Monkey Leo unable to resist
Oh, is this the
Breaking.
back in, and you can. It goes in. This is backwards. Goes
Phil
in.
Nicholson from Android Central did a couple days ago. He told people not to do this, but they didn't. Yeah, they
This
didn't.
is painful to watch.
But Samsung
I've
made a
heard it in the
statement
theater.
now,
Don't
which
do
is-
it.
they say.
Don't do it.
Renee Ritchie's trying to talk me out of it. You're holding it wrong. You're inserting it wrong.
We highly recommend our Galaxy Note 5 users follow the instructions in the user's guide to ensure they do not experience such an unexpected scenario caused by reinserting the S Pen in the other
Even
way
after
around.
he read me that,
Anxiety.
you're inserting it wrong.
Wow.
Yes.
No, don't.
So,
what
but
happens
the
is
truth is, it's very easy to do that. Oh, I just did it. Oh, crap. Just shows you I got no impulse control whatsoever. We have a great panel. It's so good to have Father Robert back for at least a little while.
A little while. I get to come home about a month a year.
We miss you, but do you get to go to DEF CON this year?
I do.
Oh, that's next week.
Oh, wait. No, I mean, I don't.
Oh.
I mean, but I
No
do.
one knows.
I totally do.
Will you be on the Wall of Sheep?
I might actually try to put a device there this year.
That'd be
just
fun.
for fun.
Yeah. And I hear there's a Star Trek convention just next door in case you
yes,
want
and
to pop
actually,
in.
it's been turned into futuristic grasshopper convention.
Watch out for the
fantastic.
grasshoppers. Also great to have Lexi Savidis, right? Am I saying it right? Or Savidis?
Yeah, Savidis, you got
You
it.
like it, Savidis? Senior editor of CNET, where she covers consumer technology, and you can watch. She did a lot of videos for CNET, and so we're thrilled to have you for your first time.
you.
Lisa Schmeiser, always welcome. She didn't bring Girl Scout cookies. I'm grateful. Editor IT Pro today.
That'll be next February. I bring
Yeah,
the cookies.
please,
Next
please
January,
don't.
February,
Please
we'll
don't.
get them.
You know I'm keto these days. I can't eat those.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's been good.
You've been
doing
quite a
good
while
for
on
me. I've
keto,
lost a lot
right?
of weight, and
Yeah.
my blood sugar is good. It's and I get to eat all the meat I want.
Are you still doing the intermittent fasting as well? Or?
No, I stopped
Okay,
that.
yeah.
Although what I realized is that was very good training for keto.
Yeah.
Because it was kind of like building up my ability to say no. I'm not going to eat. I'm not going to eat. But it was hard. This way I could say, well, I'm not going to eat that.
Yeah.
And so that's helped me a little bit. Yeah.
I've been doing keto for about a year now. But
Have
I
you?
also eat carbs.
Keto Plus, we call it. And for the plus-size priest. It's great.
Exactly.
It's
Yeah,
really great.
it works.
Our show today brought to you by Stamps.com. I think we have 2 accounts here. We use it so much. If you mail things, whether brochures, invoices, books, maybe if you're a seller on Etsy or eBay or Amazon, you use the U.S. mail. The U.S. mail is a miracle. It's a great service. But you're bringing your packages into the post office. You got to find parking. You got to bring it in. And then you're competing. You're a pro. You're competing against the amateurs. And I have to say, sometimes people go in the post office and they take their time. I think they like being there. I got stuff to do. We use Stamps.com. I can do everything I can do at the post office. I love the post office. I still go to say hi to my mail carrier, but I do all my postal stuff at my desk with Stamps.com. Everything you can do. It eliminates trips to the post office, saves you money with discounts you can't even get at the post office. You can buy and print real U.S. postage right from your computer printer. You don't need special ink. You don't need any special printer. If you're sending out any class of mail, anywhere you want to send, Stamps.com makes it easy. They've got this great USB scale, so you always have exactly the right postage. They'll even suggest ways to save money. That could be media mail, they'll say. With Stamps.com, when you buy stamps, you get 5 cents off every first-class stamp, up to 40% off priority mail. Forget the postage meter. This is a fraction of the cost. You don't need it. You just need Stamps.com. Honestly, it's a no-brainer. It saves you time. It saves you money. No wonder 700,000 small businesses like mine already use Stamps.com. And by the way, it makes your mailing much more professional. If you're selling stuff on Etsy or eBay, don't be licking stamps and handwriting addresses. Make it easy. It automatically print the address right from your address book from the order, fills out customs forms if you need those, confirmation forms, anything you need to do automatically. In fact, I've got an even better deal for you. You can enjoy Stamps.com with a special offer. It includes a 4-week trial, free postage, and that digital scale I was talking about. Now, here's the deal. You got to go to Stamps.com, click the microphone in the upper right-hand corner of the homepage, and enter our offer code TWIT. You get $55 in free postage. You get the scale. You get a Stamps.com trial offer. It's really, really a great deal. And all of that for free if you go to Stamps.com, click the upper right-hand corner, and use the offer code TWIT. Stamps.com. We thank Stamps.com for their support. I thank you for supporting TWIT, by the way, by using that offer code, because that helps us out a lot. I don't like this camera. I don't want to get, we're not going to get back to the new iPhone, but I don't like that camera bump.
Do you think it's looking at you strangely?
It's ugly, and it's big.
The camera bump has been designed
for turn on Robert's microphone.
The camera bump has been designed for a bumper case that smooths it out.
I don't want a case. Notice
that's an iPhone thing.
You and I use the little rubber sleeve cases because they don't hide the looks of it. What do you, okay, Lexi?
I have it's actually under the desk.
That's all right. You can just tell us.
I'll tell you. No, actually, I'll show you because I am.
You have it on the floor.
I do because I am very rough with my devices. Not intentionally. I'm just a very clumsy person, so I have to have a really tough device. Otherwise, I'll break it. So I have this very elaborate locking system.
Do you recommend it? Who makes it?
This one it's life proof.
Life proof is good.
Fine.
I know those.
Yeah,
those
it's been fine. Actually, every year at CES we do a case testing competition.
That's probably fun. You drop it
it's
off.
a lot. We drop a lot of phones and we break a lot of phones and we find the toughest cases. So it's
know.
We know which are the toughest ones.
I drop this thing an average of once a day from about 3
I
to
never
4
ever drop my phone. I think I can just. I'm gonna. You know what? I'm taking the case off.
No. Now it's gonna snap.
Almost guaranteed, right? That I'll drop it.
Yeah.
You know. No case. Look at that. This beautiful. I love how that looks without a case. It's so pretty.
Is that the ceramic one?
Yeah. Isn't that nice? Terabyte of storage. You know how much I've used out of this terabyte of storage? About 128 gigabytes.
I think I have about 512.
Do you? This doesn't even. I mean, I put an SD card in here, so it's even more than a terabyte now. What do you use, Schmeiza?
I have a.
Oh, that's pretty.
Yeah,
it's the same thing. Because you have a beautiful Project Red phone.
Yes.
Or is that orange?
It's the 10R.
It's the coral.
Yes.
Coral.
Yep. It's the 10R. I'm not saying XR.
You can say it however you want. You can say it however you want.
What is it? What's right? I don't even remember now.
When I was on Leo's show earlier this year, I broke out my iPhone 5S, and you were like, oh.
I mocked it. It was so small. It was cute.
It is so small. It's
so tiny. You have a baby phone.
But I finally gave it.
I think the XR is actually very good. I really like it.
I really love it. I really love the upgraded experience.
Yeah.
I love not having to charge my phone every day anymore.
Yeah.
which I had to do.
You needed to upgrade. I'm glad you did.
I did.
Did you give your kids the
No, I traded it into the store because I got a few dollars off this phone for it. And
do your kids have phones? Cell phones?
No, not till middle school at least.
Yeah, I think that's probably smart. Although they probably are the only kids in their class who don't.
We actually, because we send our daughter to an art magnet elementary school. There are plenty of other really
a lot of hippies, huh?
Yeah, a lot of hippies. So she's okay for now.
Always good.
Has your phone been vaccinated?
Well, of course it has.
Just checking.
We're hippies. We're not barbarians.
Inside the Apple factory, thefts, secret tunnels.
Ooh, I like tunnels.
This is not a revelation, this story from the information, but it was fun to read about all the ways the workers in Apple's factories are sneaking Apple's products out of the factory.
Of course they are.
Yeah, because they can make as much as a year's salary
Just by selling the intellectual property,
by leaking it out. I mean, if you wonder, I mentioned when we were talking about the next generation iPhone that they're probably already making it. That's how we probably will get all this information because they have it in the factories.
Go to Shenzhen. Go to like the market stalls of Shenzhen, and you can literally buy any brand new, some not yet released technologies from these little tables that are set up,
I love that. It's like Blade Runner.
It kind of is.
I'm going to say I love this author, and I cannot pronounce his name. Paolo Bacigalupi is a great science fiction author.
The Wind-Up Girl.
Yes, and he has a collection of short stories called Pump 6, and there is an entire short story based around a factory girl in China who smuggles out, who is presented with an opportunity and dithers over it for approximately 5 nanoseconds and then sets herself up for life based on this. And Mr. Bacigalupi has spent a lot of time...
I think it's Bacigalupi.
Bacigalupi.
Because it's a kiss. Okay.
Bacigalupi. I read him. I don't talk to him. But he's spent a lot of time in China, and I feel like he's one of the writers who effectively has a telescope trained on the future, and has been like laying down all of these warnings in his short stories, or all of these things with this is the way the world works. Don't be surprised by this.
Yeah.
It does have that sort of Blade Runner feel to it, though. Yeah. I look really bad in transparent plastic clothing.
Yeah. I look forward to seeing how the Pope's going to look once his vestments are turned.
Oh, but I've been to Shenzhen before. And
have you?
Yeah, it's a kick.
Yeah, my husband covers mobile for Tom's Guide, and I think it was Huawei actually brought him over there 2 years ago because they wanted to show him what the facilities were like and things like that. And that was something else he talked about too.
You might want to scan him for bugs now or wires.
Well, I thought I was going to find all these knockoffs, like iPhone spelled with an F, but no, there was actual, real, genuine product there.
So Apple has, or at least after the first big theft, where 6 years ago, warehouse employee at one of Apple's top suppliers, Jabil, stole thousands of iPhone 5C casings. Boy, was he sorry. From a factory in China before the product was announced. With the help from a security guard, falsified documents, and avoided security cameras as he drove a truck filled with the candy-colored shells out of the gates. After that incident, Apple formed something called NPS, the New Product Security Team. And you can only imagine what these people look like and dressed like. They're probably very scary people. However, it's gotten better. Last year, Apple began to trim the team and is now moving some of the work to contractors. The real problem now is electronics leaks, schematics. In fact, what we're seeing is 3D renders. The cases for the new iPhone that leaked out are actually 3D printed from schematics that leaked out, that kind of thing. It's a great story if you get a chance to read the information. A woman at Jabil once hid dozens of glass screens in her bra, but was caught by security guards after they noticed her unusual style of walking.
I mean, you can't really keep it that secret. People in IT, in the enterprise world, have trained themselves to look at what's happening in the channel. And if you look at what's happening in the channel,
it's leaking.
You know what parts are being bought. You know what's being assembled.
Apple once caught factory workers digging a small... Oh, that's yours. A small... You don't mind if I take your phone? A small tunnel in a corner of a room behind a large piece of machinery. They were going to use it to ferry stolen parts to the outside world. They were chipping away the wall, Shawshank Redemption style.
At some point, we're going to see like an Ocean's 11 type of heist movie based out of
That'd be a good heist movie.
It's... Because if you've got a huge financial incentive to steal this stuff and get it out there, cracking down on security is one way to address the issue, but I can't help but think perhaps there are other creative solutions Apple could come up with so that their employees are not so strongly incentivized.
Maybe pay them better, right?
Yeah.
That's
just great.
Just as you said, Robert, many of these parts end up in China's largest electronics market. It's called Huaqiangbei in the technology hub of Shenzhen. So Apple routinely sends undercover employees and contractors to hunt for, buy back, and trace stolen parts.
By the way, if you go there, do not eat the street meat.
Street.
Don't do it.
Top tip.
I was sick for a week.
I think, as I remember, that was an initiation ritual in the Anthony Bourdain TV series when an intern came on board.
You have to eat the street meat.
Just once. You don't want to do it again. Are we going to get a Apple Card this next couple of weeks? That's the rumor. Actually, the rumor was we were going to get it last week. Remember when iOS 12.4 came out? It came out, no Apple Card.
No Apple Card, no. I mean, it has to be happening sooner rather than later. I mean, the summer timeline is what was announced, and we're kind of getting to the tail end. I would be surprised.
Well, but it's summer down under in a few months. It could be December.
That's right. They didn't specify
didn't say what
hemisphere. Right, so it could be that. I'd be surprised if we were waiting until the September event.
I think they're going to do it soon.
Yeah,
because employees have been using it. They've been testing it. Unless there's an unknown problem.
Yeah.
Titanium. So the story, according to Bloomberg, and of course Mark Gurman has great sources inside Apple, that Goldman Sachs did the financial back end. Apple's only real responsibilities were, of course, designing the titanium card and writing the software for the wallet software that will give you budgeting and all that stuff. It's not, after reading all the reviews, and it's not a super great deal. Card.
Well, it is if you buy a lot of Apple products.
3%
and it
on
is
Apple.
if you use Apple Pay a lot. And I know, I have been into mobile payments for a very long time, and at least in Australia, it's huge. Everywhere you can tap to pay. Yeah, NFC payments are huge.
Do they use watches or they use their phones mostly? Both.
And mostly credit cards, though, because all
'Cause they
credit
all
cards
have
have an NFC chip in it, tap to pay.
Phones too. We were in France for the Women's World Cup in June.
Oh, I'm so jealous.
It was awesome.
Did you go to U.S.-France match?
No, we were mostly in the knockout round games because that was. But
fun.
Scotland. That was the first game we had tickets to. But one of the things I noticed is on the metro, both in Paris and in Rouen, and actually all through Paris, is they were, I wouldn't say pushing, but all of the vendors that we ran, Apple Pay and mobile payments were the first line, and then you bring out the card and everyone looks at you like you're a peasant because it's please take my money plastic.
Europe's been ahead of us, and I suppose Australia too for a long time.
But it also occurred to me this way of paying is so much more frictionless in dense urban habitats because you've already got a lot of mobile infrastructure. It's easier to get connectivity. And things like that, and
plus
I'm wondering
no receipts, none of this signing and the
and I think you're going to see. I think this is a sort of a backdoor way to get more Americans on board and comfortable with this idea. Because I've certainly seen a lot of mobile payments in San Francisco. I haven't seen it in smaller parts of the country yet.
The card is probably just an interim technology. Ultimately, Apple wants you to use Apple Pay.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this is how you get there.
Yeah, and the card is just a nice incentive to have in your wallet to show off to people because it's a nice, beautiful designed titanium card. And also if you don't have the ability to use Apple Pay wherever you might be, because a lot of retailers in the US still don't have it. Smaller retailers specifically. I mean, the cost to deploy, a contactless system is substantial. And you would look at the retailers that have done it, like Walgreens was one of the first. You've got massive resources there to deploy. Target's taken a long time to get there, but finally they have.
They did.
Are companies like Square making this happen a little faster?
For smaller retailers, yes. I mean, you go to like food trucks or you go to smaller...
I see Square everywhere in those places.
But it's small
All you need is a phone and a Square.
Yes.
To get back to the Girls, it all comes back to the Girl Scout cookies. But this past year, Square actually had a partnership with the Girl Scouts where they would give us the hardware
as a buyer,
and a little.
I would feel more comfortable doing that than to give some strange girl in a green outfit cash.
But you think about it was really clever how Apple normalized the iPad.
I'm in a bad place here.
You just stayed out of that one.
Look, in the Vatican, we're still trading sheep and tulips and using gold pressed Latin. So
I have 3 tulip bulbs I will give you.
Yeah.
For that espresso. So, this is the future, clearly. I'm not sure Apple Pay needs this kind of a bump. It's doing pretty well, right?
No,
Is it doing better than Samsung or Android Touch to Pay?
I think the thing here is if you hand somebody a card and you say you have the option to use this as a card in places that don't accept Apple Pay, but you're also tied into an Apple Pay system.
Well, they incent you because you get twice as much money back.
You have a lot of you have an ability to track purchases, probably through an app on your phone that gives you then this. Apple's always been about sucking you into their ecosystem and giving you a continuity of experience. And this is a way for them to habituate you to using them as your first line of commerce.
Yeah, and this isn't the first time we've seen, a company like Apple to incentivize a reason to use a mobile wallet. I mean, Samsung for a very long time with Samsung Pay has had a lot of rewards built in. So the more transactions you make, the more points you get, and you can redeem those points for things. I think Google Pay has had something similar in the past. But in terms of just getting people to use it, I mean, I still think a lot of people outside of people who are very tech savvy are probably a little reluctant to use mobile payments and don't quite get why they would do it if they can just carry a credit card. So a lot of the times I talk to people, I'm like, I don't bring my wallet at all anymore if I don't have to. If I don't have to, though.
I look forward to the day there's no cash, there's no credit cards. Maybe I could have a chip embedded in my wrist.
That's already happening.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens to
who's
consumer
doing
debt.
that?
I think it was.
I want that.
I think maybe
Estonia?
it was Belgium somewhere. But the biohackers are putting in chips that have abilities to use contactless payments and all sorts of other things. I don't know.
This is an interesting area to me. This revolution that's happening in financial technology and fintech is really interesting. I got an email last week from a company called, my initial reaction was, no way. We're N26. We're the new digital bank from Germany. You can use us now. Yeah, I'm going to give you my money. It turns out it's completely legitimate, and it's one of maybe a dozen new digital-only banks that you give your money to. And it's the same idea, really, is to eliminate all the friction in finance. You don't have an ATM machine. I don't
know how much friction there's been, though. I mean, I understand the need to incentivize.
Well, I said that too when the Apple Pay came out. How hard is it to get out a credit card?
When I'm in the States, I am entirely digital. Yeah. I don't have to have cash. When I'm in Italy, I have to have euros because there's so many places that do not do any sort of electronic transfer whatsoever. But in the States, my banking is digital. My credit card is digital. I use American Express, which actually does have an app on my phone if I wanted to pay with my phone. So for me, something like the Apple Card makes absolutely no sense. It would be something else I have.
You couldn't use it in Rome.
I couldn't use it.
Yeah. I was in L.A. I got a salad. They said no cash.
Yeah.
You can't even, they don't take cash.
I'm trying to remember the name of the Joe and the Java, is it? Is that the name of the?
Joe and the Juice.
Joe and the Juice. Yeah, Joe and the Juice is cashless.
Yeah, a lot of stores in San Francisco are, but now they can't be because you have to accept cash. So Amazon Go.
There's a law?
Yeah, Amazon Go and all of the other cashless stores have to accept cash.
Who says that? That's lame. Was that the San Francisco supervisors?
I think so, yes.
Oh,
I
man.
mean, on your cash, it does say this is legal tender.
Yeah.
They need to accept it.
Of course, the case is made that only cash is truly anonymous. We know now Bitcoin is not. In fact, the IRS has been sending little notices out to people saying, yeah, we know you made money in Bitcoin and you owe taxes on that.
Whoops.
Not
Are they going to pay those taxes in Bitcoin?
No, well, I don't know. Can they? I think you have to use legal tender.
Dogecoin.
Dogecoin. How much Dogecoin do you still have?
I have.
You were a Dogecoin millionaire for a while.
I have like 4 million Dogecoin, I think.
How much is that worth now?
Nothing.
45 cents, I think. It's probably.
No, crypto might be interesting. We've talked a lot about LibraCoin, the Facebook crypto. And now, of course, Congress says you can't stop it. There is definitely going to be a battle. Some of it, I feel like, is the entrenched financial system incumbents who say, no, we make too much money on it. Now, you're a young person. Do you? I point.
Is that my badge now?
You're a young person.
That's
I can
be
tell.
Your chyron underneath
You
that.
young people are beautiful in your cash. Typically, though, in your generation, do you use Venmo? Do you use
a combination? This is really difficult because covering all of this stuff, I am across all the different platforms.
You use it all.
I have to.
Yeah.
And the biggest pain point for me is, so I have to pay a friend. Do I Venmo them? Do I use Apple Pay Cash in iMessage? Do I use Facebook Messenger to send them some money? Do I just give them cash if I have face-to-face contact with this person?
So is this the new conversation that you always have to have?
It is.
So how do I pay you?
Yeah, how do I pay you? Do you take Venmo? I mean, a lot of buskers as well on the streets of San Francisco, playing music, they have their Venmo tag.
I just saw that the other day. There's a guy playing in the street. He's got a Venmo. Here's my QR code. You could pay me.
Exactly. So that's the thing.
It's not as satisfying as bending down and giving the poor person a dime and having him say thank you.
But you see, if you have Venmo, then you probably give them more because a dime.
A shiny dime. Venmo would take 90% of that, probably. All right. So that is an issue. It's kind of like
is, yeah,
it's kind of like,
absolutely.
do I need Netflix? Which subscriptions do I keep? Do you set up a Cash Me and a Venmo?
I have all
and
of them,
you have to set them all
unfortunately,
up?
and
it's so much to manage though,
it
because
is
then you have
so
to
much to
monitor the
manage.
balances in all of them.
Well, the
and-
trick is you always make sure you have like a zero balance. So I never keep money in these services because that's how they make
That's
money.
what they want you to
Yes,
do.
exactly. So I always put it into my bank account. But Venmo now charges if you put a credit card, I think. So if you have a debit transaction, it's okay. There's a lot of like different, stipulations that each of these services have. So you have to do a lot of due diligence to make sure that you're not getting charged all of these fees or that you don't have like someone I spoke to the other day had like, I think maybe almost $1,000 sitting in their Venmo
no.
account. I was like, don't,
You're not
please
earning
put it
anything.
in, please put it in the bank. Please just take it out as
But
cash, do
honestly, that's
something.
because you just want to screw Venmo. Because you're not going to say you put the money in the bank. You're not going to make that much money.
Well, but then Venmo makes money off your money.
Yeah, you
It's
don't like
sitting in the-
Venmo?
Well, why? Well, I would
It's a
rather
free
have that money.
service.
Why wouldn't that money? It's my money. Why do I put it with Venmo? I could put it in a high interest savings account.
No,
so
this
I
is
get
the new
more
thing,
money.
and I see this a lot. It's the same thing as a cord cutter. There's this whole thing of, well, it's like me. I won't look at a banner ad when I'm on a website. I just don't. I avert my eyes, and I think we've created a society where people who are doing. I mean, we run ads. This is a reasonable way to monetize, but people, it's almost an ethical thing. Like, I'm not going to look at that ad. I'm not going to give Venmo any. I'm not going to give them their VIG. But you're getting a free service.
Yeah, that's true.
But
It's not that
want,
much
I
money.
want them to be
Yeah.
honest about how they're making their profit. If they
Right.
told me
They don't hide
we
that.
get interest off the money that you leave in your Venmo account, I'd be like, oh, okay, that's
Or
fine.
if they said, here, we're doing lateral data collection to
Right.
analyze when Venmo requests are the most frequent, we can break
Well,
down.
I'm sure they
spending
do that
patterns
as
for-
well.
I would like disclosure on
Yeah.
how my data is
Well,
You
don't
need
you
to
think
tell me
Apple
before,
makes?
not after.
Don't you think Apple makes float on the money and you keep an Apple Pay?
I'm sure.
Everybody sets it
Yeah.
up that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That float is their profit, isn't it?
Well, I think this
not-
points to a bigger.
That's not a
This
lot.
points to a bigger
See,
problem, though, which is
Somebody
that
in the
we
chat
have
room
no
says,
idea.
"Free is the risk Venmo took. We don't owe them anything."
I agree. It's my money.
Yeah.
I want my money in my account.
I mean,
where
what
I
this
can
comes
see
down
it.
to, though, this is one of the things about electronic payments is there's a whole lot of data that you're giving these companies, and we have no idea how they're logging that data, how they're bundling that data to sell, who they're selling it to, or what that data is being used for. And I, for one, I'd love to see more transparency in that. I mean, at least with cash, when I hand $5 to somebody, they don't know where I live. They don't know what else I've been spending my money on. They don't know my name. They don't know my age. They don't know what else I might want to spend my money on. So there's a certain appeal there because my activities are not going to be packaged and monetized for someone else's profit.
You know who was exceptionally good at this? Dell. They basically pioneered this. Dell, when they were selling at ridiculously low margins, they were really a financial services company
Yeah.
because they would accept payment and they would pay all their suppliers net 90.
Right.
So they would be collecting interest off this money for 90 days before they had to pay their suppliers.
Yeah.
That, I mean, when you multiply that by
Somebody
millions
needs
of
to
sales.
write an informative article or maybe make a YouTube video, The Magic of Float.
Yeah.
Because I bet you there's a whole generation, Lexi notwithstanding, that doesn't really understand that that's what's going on, right? What's wrong with leaving the money in there?
Well,
There's something that feels wrong.
yeah.
It feels wrong.
It's mine. I want it.
So,
I'm selfish. I
think
want
this
the
is the
money.
new world we're in. No. I'm not. Everybody's ad blocking right now. In fact, Cory Doctorow wrote a really good piece on ad blocking at the Electronic Frontier Foundation, where he's, of course, one of their stalwarts, smart guys. But the irony is they published this in Boing Boing, which has something like 63 trackers and ads and all sorts of things. The title of the article is Ad Blocking. How about not to ad blocking, but to ads in general. And I can't remember the numbers. Let me see if I could find it in the article. But it is now, I think, close to 40% of people on the internet are running ad blocking software.
I don't block ads anymore. What I do block, I will block any site that does the tabula or those
I hate
clickbait
those.
stories. I hate those.
Outbrain.
Just philosophically, I will not.
But
allow
don't you
it.
want to find out which vegetable the doctor is baking you on?
That's why I don't like those, because they suck me in
Right.
every time. You won't believe what these celebrities look like now that they're old.
And you have to
I
click
have to
20
see
times
them.
to get to the
Great,
thing
And
you
it's a
actually
slideshow.
want.
money, no stress. Like that's just the. You don't have to know the celebrities all look good because they have lots of money and no stress.
exactly.
There's no point in clicking on that story.
No, you know why they look good? They use calm.com. And now I'm going to do an ad. And this ad is going to be so wonderful and so relaxing. This ad is going to change your life that you don't want to skip this ad. You want to watch and listen to what I'm about to tell you because it's going to make your life better. See? That's good. That's a good thing. Then I know there are people out there who are going to say, I don't care, I'm skipping it. No, you're going to miss out on something great. Calm.com, the #1 app to reduce stress in this modern age, to relax your mind, to center. It's meditation and more. It's sleep. If you're struggling to sleep, this is a epidemic. About 33% of Americans now struggle. They don't get enough sleep. It can affect your cognitive functions during the day, learning, problem-solving, decision-making. I'm going to log into my Calm.com because I love my Calm account. They have sleep stories that are so relaxing. See, I used to listen to my audiobooks, but I stopped doing it because I would miss so much when I'd fall asleep, and then I'd have to figure out where I was. With Calm, they have sleep stories. You don't care if you miss some of them. They're just very, very relaxing, wonderful stories by amazing people. Here, let's just, I'll play you some sleep stories. Matthew McConaughey, Stephen Fry. They have children's stories. They have, now you wouldn't think that Jerome Flynn, the sellsword from Game of Thrones, you wouldn't think he's a relaxing guy.
Oh, no, he's got a great voice.
But he's got this amazing...
Hello there.
Hi, Jerome.
My name is Jerome Flynn.
Oh,
Yes.
And tonight, we'll be taking a relaxing boat ride through England's picturesque waterways.
Now, if you listen to this, you'll learn a lot about England's picturesque waterways, but you don't mind if you
first,
fall asleep halfway
take
through.
a moment to cozy up and get comfortable.
Okay, everybody. Now, if you're driving,
Taking
don't
a
do
few
this.
deep, relaxing breaths,
Oh, Jerome.
exhaling any tension from the day.
And I love the
When
little
you're
chug,
ready,
chug, chug of the
allow your
riverboat.
eyes to slowly close.
So you get daily meditations. You get all kinds of helpful information. And there's stretching now. They have morning stretches, evening stretches, warm-ups, cool-downs. You can just have in the background some of these calm scenes running. Here's rain on leaves. Let me play the little rain on leaves. Oh, wait a minute. I can mix the rain in with Jerome.
The water.
Wait, can you mix Jerome with
impossibly
Matthew
still.
McConaughey?
That would be scary.
On either
All
side
right,
of
all
its
right, all
crystal
right.
surface,
All right.
long reeds.
Actually, Matthew's story is really good. I really love these sleep stories. Here, you want to hear a little Matthew?
Well, hello there.
Oh, there it is. There it is.
McConaughey, and tonight I'll be reading a special sleep story called Wonder.
He's actually, I've
Before
listened to
we
this
begin.
a lot of times. A whole library of programs designed to help you sleep, help you relax, help you focus. Some of the best readers in the world. You get so much with the Calm Premium subscription. Here's the Daily Calm.
Welcome to the Daily Calm.
Tamara Levitt, she walks you through
Today
a guided
we'll
meditation.
be talking about empathy.
Empathy. See, everybody needs to learn more about empathy.
Oh,
How to be empathetic.
Waving wheel, feet,
The
wheat thing.
the feet of wheels.
The feet of wheels.
I love
Wow,
the
words.
waving feet
They're
of
tricky.
wheels. You're already relaxed, aren't you? I love Calm.com. I think you will too. We've got a special deal that's going to relax you even more. Look at this. Parenting. These are their master classes. Gratitude. Peak performance. Oh, I got to listen to this one. Mindful eating. The power of rest. 25% off a Calm Premium subscription right now. Go to calm.com. Notice how to do that? Calm.com/twit. CALM.com. /twit. It's kind of one of my lifetime goals to do a sleep story for Calm.
You know, now that I've heard that, I think
I'd
I
like
do
to
want
do
the
that.
Apple Card.
Yeah.
I think it's just
Wouldn't the
pretty.
Apple Card be better?
And I'm going to trade my phone in for an iPhone.
It'd be so much better for you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Calm.com, for your support. Thank you for supporting Twit by using that special URL. And you get 25% off. Calm.com/twit. No, it's interesting how we live in this world where maybe we're just all teenagers that haven't grown up. We're just rebelling. I'm not going to give Venmo my money.
That's me.
I'm not going to look at that. I'm not going to watch
No,
that.
because teenagers don't care.
Yeah.
Teenagers just want the shiny thing. I want the shiny thing, but I'm like, but I don't want to
Teenagers
give
care
them money
about
they don't
everything.
deserve.
That is actually the state of the teenagers. You care too much about everything all of the time.
Everything and nothing.
Yeah.
They care about
You
outrage.
feign.
That's
Yeah.
what they want.
Yeah, you
You know,
feign.
they're just coming. You look at that; they're just coming online as people, and they've just now realized that it's an incredibly complex world with inherent unfairness. And they're all, wait, what?
So if a guy walks up to you on the street and offers you $5 to take a picture of you, what would you say?
Oh no!
No.
Oh, absolutely not.
See,
I know,
everybody is so negative these days. What if you knew that he was a Google engineer who is actually trying to take pictures of people to improve their face recognition data?
Then
Now,
Definitely
definitely not.
Yeah.
Either that or he pays me a lot more.
Yeah.
They should pay more than $5. Google is rich. Google has so much money. And second, you know that picture of you is not going to be used for just one use case.
Right.
It's a piece of data that's going to be used as often as possible with more product development. Why do people sell themselves out so cheaply?
But and yet we complain constantly about face recognition technology because it's trained on white men and does a terrible job with people of color and women.
So pay
Don't you
better. Pay the data pool what it's worth.
Where are they going to get the data pool if only white men are dumb enough to fall for the $5 gift card
Well,
scam?
then it looks like you've got a great
they
data
can come
pool of
down to
dumb
my
white men.
side
That's
of
what
the
you've
city.
got. Like that's one pool, and then actually
I would contribute, but I can't.
and then hand out the cheddar for the real data.
They already recognize me just fine. This was actually a great little piece in ZDNet by Chris. Now, I'm going to mangle his name, Masizik, I think. Google bought my friend's face for $5 as they're working on a Face ID for its next Pixel phone. Employees are stopping people. In this case, it was in New York City. He was handed a phone and offered a $5 gift card to Amazon or Starbucks as long as he would just interact with the phone for 5 minutes.
Okay, let me put this in a positive light. On one hand, yes, I am freaked out. I don't want any of these companies to have
I'm glad
any
they're doing
rights to
this.
my data. But yes,
How else are they going to do this?
The fact that they are actually saying, no, this is a service that we're trying to develop, and here's some payment. Now, the payment's way off from what I would actually want, but at least they're recognizing, no, you're the product here. We're actually buying something from you.
It's a step. I'm just thinking back in the early aughties. There were a couple times my husband and I went to Vegas, and at one of the shopping arcades that was attached to a casino, you could be the test audience for new TV shows that CNBC.
Right.
They used to pay us $25 for 20 minutes of
And you
watching
get to
TV.
watch TV.
Yeah, exactly. So how has the payment dropped so dramatically?
All right.
And again, for a piece of data that is endlessly
how it's
fungible
dropped?
for them.
It's the market.
Yeah.
It's a market economy.
Well, 'cause
People
we
will do it for $5,
and we have all
then
these
that's
dumb,
what
and
we're
we
going
have
to
all
pay
these
them.
dumb websites like upload your photo and see what you're going to look like when you're 60
Face
years
ID.
old. Yeah.
Did you let your kids play with that because it's fun?
No, Jesus, no.
I figured the Russians probably have plenty of images of me.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Oh, I sent them, so.
You want to see what I look like when I'm ancient? I'm going to scare Lexi now.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Let me see if I can find the picture.
This is why I moved my photo album to a private cloud.
Yeah.
Oh, no, did you do the face aging app?
Wow.
Face app.
Oh, my God.
I think that's pretty accurate.
Like
That's
Cocoon 3. Good
That's
Lord.
like the 15th Doctor.
Cocoon 3, The Conjuring. I like it.
Oh my goodness.
And
go
they
find
didn't
a
give you
swimming
anything
pool.
for that. They didn't give you $5
I don't care. They gave me
either?
that. They gave me that.
Is
That's
that how you
worth
look
it.
at night when you
Keeps on
take off that red necklace?
That's actually what I look like. That's not. I fooled you all. That's not Face ID. That's what I look like.
I feel like one of the emerging aspects of digital literacy or online
Teaching
literacy.
kids not to fall for that.
Well, not just that, but teaching people how to value their own data.
Yeah.
If you look at how much money companies make off of your data, either by training their AIs for services or by packaging up that data and selling it to someone else who will then target you, value your data, value your personal data as the commodity it is. Stop giving it away for like 5 seconds of amusement on the web.
That was my thing, which was I wasn't so put off by the app. It was an app from an app developer, whatever.
He worked
The
at
thing is,
Microsoft. He came up with it in Seattle. It
but
wasn't.
stop installing all those apps on your phone that take your data. Why? You have a reason because you're actually reviewing this stuff.
Yeah.
But I know.
But I took Facebook off. I took Instagram off. I don't want them filing.
Exactly. But you have so many people who have dozens, if not hundreds, of apps installed.
No,
and they don't know what they're doing.
And
It
how
was
are you
silly.
supposed to
Chuck
find out
Schumer
who's who's
tweeting,
tracking it?
"Oh, don't do this," was silly.
Yeah.
But I am glad that the awareness was raised, that people started thinking about it. And I think every time I install an app, I always think, okay, who's going to get the data that they're going to get? This app is going to know where I am and do lots of things.
I downloaded a Paint by Numbers app recently, and I can only use it when I'm connected to my cellular network. And this confounds me because there is no reason.
That's interesting.
There's no reason whatsoever why I shouldn't be able to just go thunk, 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 and make the pastoral picture on my phone without having to be connected.
There is, because it's very easy to screen packets coming over your Wi-Fi network. It's far more difficult to do it if it's going over your cellular. Because
so you don't know what's happening.
Right, because you have to create a captive
They don't know
cell tower
that they're sending back location information and what your net worth is.
So I'm a little suspicious about this app now because, again, there's no reason why I should.
But this is good. This is the kind of education. You're exactly right. This is the new literacy. We need to think about this stuff and use it. Then this pisses me off. Chris Hughes, who was Mark Zuckerberg's roommate and helped create Facebook, right, is now working with the feds. He's actually going to meetings with the Federal Trade Commission trying to figure out ways to break Facebook up.
Oh, good.
He has been a strong critic of Facebook. Now, of course, it's after he made his billions of dollars on Facebook. Yeah. But apparently, he has joined two leading antitrust academics. Tim Wu, we know him from the Kill Switch or Master Switch. Scott Hempel of New York University, in meetings with the FTC and the Justice Department and state attorneys general. They're laying out a potential antitrust case against his company. He's no longer there, but the company he helped found, Facebook. If I were Mark, I would be so hurt. That is, what did Mark Zuckerberg do?
Hurt at this point. He's been betrayed by everyone and betrayed everyone.
What does it feel like to be hurt?
This is like Bezos complaining that we need to leave the planet because we're destroying the Earth. It's like, you're doing it, dude.
If only somebody with billions of dollars could find solutions to help mitigate the problems he solved. Wow.
So do you
it's a fatal lack of imagination.
Really is it me, or do you celebrate this guy and say, good for you, Chris? You were Mark's friend, and now you've turned into a vicious enemy. Good for you. I don't know.
This doesn't sound like someone who has suddenly grown a social conscience and says.
This sounds like someone who has suddenly stuck his finger in the wind and seen which way it was blowing.
Oh, you think?
Yeah. And he sees opportunity if it's broken up for some sort of competition and another way to arbitrage what he's already created.
Oh, see, you have a devious mind.
Well, that's what
I just thought. I just thought, Mark must have stepped on his toes. He's butthurt. He's just going to get him back. That's how low level I am. I wasn't thinking Game of Thrones level.
No, look, he's looking at which way the wind is blowing because Facebook is effectively this decade's Microsoft in that it's a tech stand-in for all of the social and industrial anxieties people are having.
Probably inappropriately, right? Yeah. I mean, it's not just Facebook, it's not just Google, it's not just Amazon. But those are the ones who are going to bear the brunt of it. Yeah. Google, by the way, has banned. This is angering. Fix-It ads. They have banned ads for repair experts who can fix electronics. Search for MacBook repair, cell phone repair, broken cell phone screen, and there are no advertisements. And this is an open letter to the Federal Trade Commission from Kyle Wiens of iFixit. Actually, Kevin Purdy, who's now working for iFixit. Good for you, Kevin. About Google's ban of repair business ads. In October 2018, Google updated its other restricted business policies and banned technical support by third-party providers for consumer technology products and online services. iFixit's been a real champion for the right to repair movement. We have a right to repair. We own this technology. And it seems wrong for Google to carry water for Apple, John Deere, and other companies who say, no, you better bring your stuff into us. Only we can fix it. Maybe Google was just trying to ban spam. Maybe that was the point. Bing has not done this. Although there is, dubious search results from Bing if you search for computer repair. Some of them are maybe not the best tools.
I thought we had gone past this. I mean, this goes back to the 70s when car fix-it places weren't allowed to actually do anything.
Yeah.
And the federal government stepped in and said, no, wait a minute. These people have bought it. This is their car. That's a service station that deserves the right to have the same manuals as the authorized service station. And at that point, it should have killed it. Now there's this attack on the right to repair. And, I mean, that's my...
Well,
Google has not responded to this piece from iFixit, although iFixit has pointed out that a lot of independent repair shops, even some of those authorized by Apple, are because they can't advertise on Google, losing a lot of business, and there's a serious concern about losing these small shops, these mom and pop shops, because they can't get the word out.
Well, there's currently 20 states considering right to repair bills on the state level.
Right on. Yeah.
I'm not sure it's necessarily a bunch of constituents who contacted their legislators and said, I'm really angry about phones. I think one of the things that's been perking along in agricultural tech for the last decade or so is a really nasty fight over whether or not farmers are allowed to repair their own John Deere tractors.
Right.
Because agricultural tech right to repair is a huge issue now, too.
I think it's probably them lobbying much more than the geeks.
Yeah, but you do have right to repair is now up there the same way that digital privacy and data protection is percolating on a state level. So I think this is something that we're actually going to see a lot of in the political campaigns in 2020 as well. And it'll be interesting to see when and how quickly Google either pivots on their position or modifies it so that they don't come off looking like the bad guys in somebody's stump ad. Because
parse this for me.
Really
we gotta go. You guys
Why
are
is
smart.
Google killing the small business by not letting them advertise?
It looks bad.
It looks terrible.
So is this a witch hunt? The U.S. government going after technology, making that the straw man, the bad guy. We're going to see we're going to see jobs lost, right? This is going to be a problem. And yet the tech sector is powering the U.S. economy in many respects.
There are probably some aspects to the probes that have become politicized.
It's highly politicized. I mean,
there was
look at Elizabeth Warren.
There was a great / terrifying Bloomberg article this last week talking about the future of a Pentagon cloud contract.
Jedi,
that Amazon was presumably on the fast track until the president decided that Jeff Bezos should. Why should Jeff Bezos get that business?
Well, but
and
the
there's
worst
been
part
some very
was
intense but
it
the
was
point
Oracle
is,
that lost the contract.
Safra Catz has an in at the White House though, and so she was able to press her case.
It was an
successfully.
Oracle memo saying there's no way they lost the bid.
Yeah.
There's no way that Amazon or Google should get, or not Google, Microsoft should get Jedi.
Yeah.
And
now,
that somehow that memo that Oracle wrote, that Katz wrote, got to the president.
Because
and now,
she's visited the White House on multiple occasions, and she's got the ear of the Oval Office.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, IT people looking at that said, of course Microsoft or Amazon should have gotten that contract. They have the most developed products on the market.
They've also got 4 data centers apiece that are in Northern Virginia alone, specifically designed for this kind of work. They've got the infrastructure in place already. But the broader point to the Bloomberg article was that the government procurement process, which has historically been protected by courts and has historically been practiced in such a way to take the politics out of it directly, that's been pretty severely disrupted over the last year or so, and it may be part of a larger politicization of regulation in this country when it comes to tech. You're going to have to look really carefully at who's being targeted company-wise, who's going after them, and what the reasons are.
It actually looks very politically savvy for Safra Catz, who was able to push the exact buttons that she knew the president. The memo contains a flowchart titled "A Conspiracy," good start, to create a 10-year DoD cloud monopoly, and then has pictures of.
Of course, it has pictures. Look at the audience.
Pictures of President Obama, Ash Carter, 2 previous secretaries of defense. James Mad Dog Mattis, and it's extremely cynical, if you ask me, for Katz to put this together, make sure it gets to the president's eyes, knowing that really it's propaganda targeted at one person,
and it worked.
And it worked.
And it absolutely
because
worked.
Now there's an investigation into this contract.
The Bloomberg piece was great. It dropped last Thursday or Friday. I'd urge people to go look for it. It's about 1,800 words long. And it lays out in detail exactly how this whole bid process has just gotten derailed in ways that are not typical to this kind of procurement for defense contractors.
Oracle, when they lost the round and were eliminated from the bidding, sued. They alleged that rivals had an unfair advantage due to Amazon's close relationships inside the Department of Defense. Maybe it's justified. I don't know, but it's a fascinating story, and I think probably not the end of this kind of attempt at manipulation.
Now, something that you have to remember about this is Oracle's, they were specifically kicked out of the contract bidding process because they couldn't meet the requirement.
They couldn't do it.
They couldn't do it. So what Oracle is saying here is not, well, we could do it instead of them.
No,
Oracle
it's
is
just
saying we want you to break it up.
Yeah.
We want you to have.
We want you to change the requirements so that we qualify.
We can do it.
Yeah.
Which is again, from an IT standpoint, is not a great idea. I don't want multiple vendors to be able to blame each other for when my system goes down, especially if it's mission critical to the safety of the United States.
Yeah.
But that's just me.
And again, a lot of these contracts also depend on pre-existing depth of expertise, and Microsoft has that, and Amazon has that at this point too.
Google is not in the running because they withdrew from it. This is the contract, the JEDI contract that Google's employees, their engineers said, we don't want to be doing this kind of defense
And honestly,
work.
Google wasn't well suited for this.
Yeah.
There's two companies on this planet that can do this from the bottom to the top, and that's Amazon and Microsoft.
$10 billion contract. It's a very valuable
And look,
contract.
you can just like, in an ideal world, even if the person who can yay or nay this dislikes the company or the CEO, what they can also do is say this is an area where they already have the depth of expertise that you need. The security clearances are already in place. The infrastructure's in place. It will be fewer man hours and fewer resources to get us what we want. It's good for the government. It's good for the people. Like in an ideal
president,
world.
who's got such a grasp of cyber, will be reviewing this contract.
Careful.
And letting us know whether it's justified. What is JEDI? JEDI it stands for, I know what it stands for, but I don't know. Is it the kind of the traditional cloud infrastructure, but this is what the Defense Department is, the Joint Enterprise Defense Infrastructure, JEDI.
So imagine some of the problems that we've had with data leakages over the past 20 years, where you've got independent contractors who keep a little data silo, and then someone breaches that, and suddenly China has all the data about the F-35 fighter. JEDI is designed to put all of that into a secure enclave that is controlled by a set of rules that works for everybody.
So it's a Pentagon cloud, specific cloud?
Precisely.
Yes.
So rather than every contractor rolling their own, they will be required to use JEDI, which means all the people accessing it will need to work according to the security policies of JEDI.
Yeah.
So in theory, it is a really good idea.
I've talked to security pros who work in the defense sector around the area, and this is something they all want. Because in addition to the technical considerations you've outlined, it also makes it easier for people to understand security and to work in a way where they reduce the risk of human error in the security process.
And it keeps people from doing something like, hey, you know that file you need for the next design
it's
of
in my
something?
Dropbox.
Exactly. I put it in the drop. Here's the link. Just download it.
No, because that stuff happens now.
So at least up to now, it was going to be awarded sometime in the next few weeks.
Yeah.
Now the new Defense Secretary, Mark Esper, and the President have said that they want to investigate, perhaps start over, scuttle the process. And
it's going to come down to the same two vendors. It really is.
It also depends on how many more congressional reps decide to get involved in this fight one way or the other, because I can't imagine that anybody who reps Northern Virginia is going to sit on the sideline.
Ron
for
Johnson,
this one.
Marco Rubio have also written letters to the Pentagon raising concerns.
Well,
it is.
Come on,
it is a shame when you start to politicize technical stuff like this. At the same token, I think it should be fair.
Look, tech is inherently political in a lot of ways, because either it can introduce, perpetuate, or exacerbate power imbalances that are there already, or economic imbalances that are there already. We had a really good comment in the chat room earlier when we were talking about Apple Pay and things, saying that a cashless life is in many ways an economic privilege. Because not everybody has access to the tech or the infrastructure.
That's right.
So again, tech is inherently political. What the question should be right now is, when the U.S. government starts looking at antitrust cases or anti-competitiveness cases, what are the motivations for bringing those cases to the investigatory stage? What are they hoping to get out of it? And who's driving this? Why are they driving it?
There is pressure from Congress to also move forward on JEDI, including 4 GOP members of the House Armed Services Committee. The committee, this is Texas Representative Mac Thornberry, who wrote a letter to the president urging him to move forward as quickly as possible with the award. Our committee has conducted oversight of this contract from the beginning. As you know, the courts have upheld the DoD's handling of the competition. While it's understandable that some of the companies competing for the contract are disappointed at not being selected as one of the finalists, further delays will only damage our security and increase the cost of the contract. That's a Republican, by the way. So it's just another battle.
Yeah. Every time that this has happened, it has always increased the cost of the contract.
Yeah. So it's an interesting idea. So up to now, the Pentagon has not had its own commercial cloud. This is something new.
They've cobbled it together. They've used clouds that have been created by their contractors. And again, whenever you do that, that's when you lose
we've seen
billions
breaches.
of dollars of data.
From their perspective, too, I think part of it was if we try out this one vendor who does things well, that's great. We can roll it out to more places. If they don't do well, then we can
what about a
cut our
multi-homed
losses.
cloud? I mean, is that maybe that's too hard to do?
Well, see, you're not really the cloud part. The storage part is easy. What you want is you want a company that has experience with zoning off information and making sure users are only in places they're supposed to be.
And it's always the users are always the most complicated part.
Yes.
Always. My mom used to be the security officer at one of the facilities for BAE, British Aerospace, and it was the non-lethal weapons division. And the things that she told me about the protocols she had to put down were, by the end of her tenure, she was checking for thumb drives. She had to confiscate smartphones if people came in. It's just, and people who in theory design weapons and are very smart, literally, like, she had to have a talk with one guy repeatedly as to why he couldn't watch porn at work and click on banners. Like this is the kind of stuff that security pros in top secret environments actually deal with.
Or having an NSA consultant who thinks it's okay for him to bring files to home to work on. It's like, maybe
what
that's
could
not a
possibly
great
go
idea.
wrong?
Yeah, no, it's amazing what the user is always the area where you really need to do a lot of work.
Let's take a little break. We've got a few more things to talk about, including a smart diaper. But before we get to the smart diaper story, I'd like to play a little video. I think Victor made this for us of some of the things you might have missed if you missed anything this week on Twit.
Previously on Twit.
What about
So we've got earnings and regulation.
Earnings and regulation. Now let's get into let's do something fun.
We're going to talk about licensing later, so we've got the holy trinity right there.
Have you made any plans for your end of life yet? I mean, there are people who love you that need to be protected.
iOS Today.
Today, we're going to talk about privacy, using your iPad or your iPhone, your Apple Watch, your Apple TV, and even your computer in a more private way.
This week in Google.
Did you hear this story about someone who apparently was propositioned $5 for a face scan by a Google employee? So apparently your face is only worth $5.
They got the story right.
Where and how should societal values, democratic values, be embedded into these different platforms that are shaping democratic societies? We need to get faster, tougher, and hold the feet of these executives to the fire in terms of whether they have responsibilities that go beyond the bottom line.
Security Now.
If you visit any article on the Washington Post's website using Chrome's incognito mode, you'll be greeted with the message, quote, "Private browsing is permitted exclusively for our subscribers." Wait, what?
Twit. Join the chat room and watch us watching you.
It's the tin hat brigade here at Twit.
I like my tin hat.
I used to be a guy that said privacy schmivacy. Now, I think we've all learned a little bit.
I've got ultimate privacy. I've got a system that's not connected to anything, including power.
It's probably not that useful.
Our definition of tablet is different.
Oh, you have the stone tablets. I understand. Yeah. Our show today brought to you by Worldwide Technology, WWT, and their ATC. I like these. This is enterprise, right? It's all acronyms, right? ATC is their Advanced Technology Center. This is so cool. I remember years ago, Jim Ladderback and Patrick Norton and I spent some time in Ziff Davis's labs in Foster City. You remember those days where they had these great labs and they'd test stuff? And those days are long gone, but thank goodness WWT has effectively created an even better lab in their headquarters or world headquarters in St. Louis. $500 million in equipment from all the big OEMs and the little ones too. You've got Dell EMC, you've got VMware, you've got Intel, you've got disruptors, new companies like Tanium and Equinix and Expanse. And the thing is, when you're buying enterprise technology, you've got to know it's all going to integrate with your existing technologies. You've got to know how it's going to integrate, how it's going to work. WWT is your trusted partner. They've been with you over the years. They're going to stay with you. In fact, many customers have been with WWT for over 10 years because they know that's where they can go to get the answers they need to make sure their businesses run right. WWT's engineers use this lab every day, beta testing new equipment, building reference architectures, custom integrations, so they can help customers make the right decisions, see results faster with much less investment. But here's the best part. You can use it too. The ATC is an incubator for IT innovation and offers end users, people like you, hundreds of on-demand integrated solutions at labs representing the newest advances in everything from flash storage, hyper-converged infrastructure, hybrid cloud and analytics, infrastructure automation, data protection, all the things that are so complicated to integrate in and so important to your business. You've got to learn about these things before you launch, and this is where you can spin up proofs of concept, you can pilot programs, you can use their sandbox so you can choose the right solution. Reduce concept time from months to weeks. Get into the market, get your stuff running, and this is all available as a lab as a service, a dedicated lab space within the ATC for you, the customers, so you can perform programmatic testing using all of those amazing tools, that vast technology ecosystem WWT's put together. $500 million in equipment. A little later this summer, they're going to launch a new digital platform with hands-on access to more than 200 lab environments. You can get early access right now, pre-launch access, if you go to www.com/twit. Their amazing advanced technology center, they built it for you, and you can use it. You can even get pre-launch access if you go to www.com/twit. WWT simplifies the complex. www.com/twit, delivering business and technology outcomes around the world. And I'm really pleased to have them as a sponsor of this show. See, I told you I don't know anything about enterprise. But we have a lot of people, a lot of enterprise listeners.
Enterprise is the future.
It's the future, man.
No, literally, it's the future. What you see in the enterprise, you'll soon see in the consumer market.
Yeah. We're going to have Twit Jedi soon.
Twit-eye.
Twit-eye. Yeah. Do not. You should, I think this is kind of a standard thing. If a company comes along and says, would you like to install our app on your phone, because we'd like to know more about what you think and what you do, do not. ComScore, familiar with ComScore, they are a useful company for a lot of people trying to know how their websites are used. They do analytics. They have a product for macOS called PremierOpinion. VoiceFive distributes it. An Arrow security company published this article saying, its man-in-the-middle proxy software installs this. You didn't appreciate this, Father Robert.
Oh, my goodness.
A proxy on ports 8888, 8443, 8254 captures all the machine's SSL and TLS traffic.
Spies on all of your traffic?
All of your traffic. It's a bundled application that's offered along with the installation flow of other software products. It's one of those where you go, hey, use our downloader when you're downloading this. Oh, and it's going to install this fabulous PremierOpinion. It installs its own local system certificate with any application, then automatically trusts it. At this point, with all user traffic going through its proxy, PremierOpinion decrypts all the SSL traffic in the proxy so that even if you think you're secure, they could see everything you're doing, including emails, banking information, governmental websites. This is why you need Jedi, by the way, and potentially beyond. So just a little, I thought I'd pass along this warning. This is kind of like maybe a little bit like Lenovo's Superfish. That kind of it's been around for a decade.
Superfish broke SSL. This looks like it
breaks it, but it breaks it in a good way.
Right. So they must have replaced. They have a certificate. A custom certificate.
They put a certificate on your system.
Okay. No. See, this company must be destroyed.
Yeah.
I'll get it.
But the real warning is it may not seem to be coming from ComScore. It's being distributed, for instance.
Right,
if you use a BitTorrent product called BitLord, okay, when you download it, there's a little thing here that says, oh, look, PremierOpinion is part of an online market research community, 2 million members worldwide. It's voluntary, but if you want to accept this, you can download it while you download BitLord. Yeah.
This is why we can't have nice things.
I thought I'd pass that along. I think our audience is...
It's not just for phones, folks. Don't download any software on anything.
Hey, here's some good news. Actually,
don't have software.
That is my new recommendation.
Just don't use software.
Only install what you absolutely know you need. So too many of us, like hobbyists, we just install everything.
You know what this computer is for?
I want
it's for
everything.
solitaire. That's it.
That's it. That's all it does. The House Wednesday passed a measure banning robocalls. And it's nice when you hear the House voting for something 429-3.
I wanted. Who are the three?
Who are those three? Who likes robocalls?
I feel like
Who's like, those are the only calls I get. I'm so lonely.
How would you justify to your constituency voting against the Stopping Bad Robocalls
Your
Act?
constituency are the people who are setting up the
The
banks
robocallers. Yeah, that's the definition of constituency. Who gave me the biggest bag of money this week?
Yeah.
Stop Bad Robocalls Act passed. Who knows if it'll get voted on in the Senate?
$10,000 per violation.
Yeah.
They weren't really enforcing the $1,500 per violation.
right.
So
The Senate did pass a similar measure, the Telephone Robocall Abuse, Criminal Enforcement, and Deterrence Act, which, by the way, is an acronym that spells TRACED. They
love
passed
their
that
acronyms.
97-1.
I'm surprised
So-
they don't have SHIELD yet.
Yeah.
They
Or
have
hang up. if
Shaken
there
and
was
Stir.
do the
Wait,
acronym.
what?
Yeah.
You don't know about Shaken and Stir? Isn't that great? Those are the anti-robocall protocols.
Shaken and stirred.
The authentication protocols. In fact, I think T-Mobile has already started to use it. It'll provide authentication for this call came from our network, from one of our subscribers. I think I can't remember which does
Which one's the shaken, which one's the stir?
Shaken stands for secure handling of asserted information using tokens.
Oh, naturally, yeah.
Of course. Stir, secure telephony identity revisited. There's a James Bond fan who really cared about the retronym.
Now, that's one of the nice things about being in Italy.
AT&T
I get no
and
robocalls.
Comcast.
None at all?
None.
Wow.
Is there a law against it, or they just haven't figured it out yet?
Well, I mean, because the only U.S. number that works for me is my Google Voice number, and I get no robocalls on my Google Voice number.
I get no calls.
That's famous last words. I'm probably now going to get
Yeah,
a lot.
now everyone's going to be calling.
What if the calls are coming from Google after a while?
What if the calls are coming from inside?
Let's see here. I guess we can do the diapers.
Yes.
Finally,
I was waiting
we
for this
get
story.
there.
Oh.
So this seems like a bad idea. I think now it's been a long time since I changed a diaper, but I think you pretty much usually know when they're full. I think you have a sixth sense as a parent, right, Lisa? Am I wrong?
Can I tell a quick CES story?
Yes.
Because I read. So a few years ago when I was at CES, I was talking to somebody who had a little sensor you were to clip into the child's diaper. And then when the child's diaper got wet, the sensor would ping the smartphone and then tell you.
That's this.
And then tell, the baby's wet, time to change the diaper. And I said, that's great. How many users does it ping at this to? And they said, just one. And I said, so what you've done is you've created a device that guarantees one person is forever responsible for changing diapers.
Mom, what's wrong with that, Mom?
Or you have the diaper phone. You just pass it back and forth.
Yeah, well,
that's a good idea. It's like the talking stick. You got the diaper phone.
You've got the diaper phone.
It was
the
just
handoff.
such a weird thing to me because also if you have a baby or a toddler who's in daycare and they have diapers there, what are you supposed to do? Get pinged at work all day?
They must have had, because Huggies did this in Korea last year, so they must have had the Korean Huggies.
So-
Pampers has now
So
announced.
the question I have about this whole Pampers system is, again, is the relationship going to be just one person gets alerts?
No,
Or are
that
they
would
going
be
to-
foolish.
Or are they going to recognize that many children are raised in a household with more than one adult who's responsible for them?
The
and-
alert thing is the easy thing to understand. What they're really selling is they want this to be a data collection point so that you can give to your doctor, this is what my child's bowel movements look like.
No.
That
doesn't take a picture.
No, there are already apps though where I forget the name of the app that I actually used for like the first 3 or 4 months of my daughter's life, where I logged
sleep patterns.
Well, I logged every feeding, how often I was feeding her, how long a feeding
why did
lasted.
you do that?
Because I was a freaked out first time.
Yeah, that's right. That's the real reason.
No, but it was also useful because I did nurse, and so it was a handy way to because after all, I was just like
when Jennifer was pregnant
really
with our first Abby, I handled my anxiety by writing a hypercard stack with which to time contractions.
Oh, there you go.
That went out the window almost immediately.
But I looked at it was nice to have the data and actually track how often feedings were happening, how long her sleep intervals were, when I was changing diapers, things like that.
Actually, we'll do this. So, weirdly, the one in Korea will send you a text alert when your child has pooped.
Like you don't
Again,
need
something
to
you
do
don't really
that.
need to know. Pampers will only track urine, not bowel movements.
Yeah.
But Pampers will track sleep as well, and I think that actually maybe is more useful. The Lumi by Pampers line, Pampers says there's a wait list. It'll be launching in the U.S. this fall, has an activity sensor that secures to a, quote, landing on the front of the baby's diaper. It comes with a baby monitor and a 10-day supply of diapers. There's also an app to log the kids' pee and identify patterns. This is helicoptering parenting.
Well, one of the things I want to point out is there's a real pressure in U.S. parenting right now to, quote unquote, sleep train your baby.
Oh.
And one of the reasons there's that pressure is because an increasing number of parents in the U.S. don't have the luxury of having somebody who can stay with the baby and not have to go to work the next day.
That's why.
And so sleep training is effectively you trying to get the baby to sleep
regularize the sleep
so that workers aren't so exhausted.
Yeah.
And what this tool is effectively is it's a way to say, we can reduce the baby to a set of data that has needs.
Apparently this isn't the first. There are connected onesies that double as sleep trackers.
Yeah.
There's a robotic crib.
And there are needs to track some children's sleeps, especially if they're premature and they've had breathing difficulty, for example. There are mattresses for that, and there are onesies for that, because some babies do have to be taught how to breathe.
The app will display one of three diaper statuses: dry, wet, or very wet.
Oh, good.
Pampers spokesperson told CNN Business parents didn't ask for a poo or pee alarm. They wanted something more like the smartwatches of today. The activity sensor tracks baby's sleep, and since it's there on the diaper, well, it can also track.
They
if
want it
the
to be like
diaper's wet.
a smartwatch. Are they going to allow you to gamify? Can you compete with
the
other
rings
parents?
And
complete
my
your
baby
rings.
filled its rings today.
Several times.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, I see what the yellow ring's for. What's the brown ring for?
Well, okay, but from the business side, this is Pampers' the starter. They want, because diapers, that makes sense. But you could see they want to sell you the baby monitors. They want to sell you the cameras. They want to sell you the little connected temperature strips so that you can keep a running log of your baby's temperature. They see so much money because over the last 10 years, baby tech has become its own pavilion at CES. It generates billions of dollars. And Pampers feels left out because they've got the old dumb Pampers, the little...
Kathy Hirsch.
The problem with Pampers is that you don't have a lifelong customer base.
Right.
Your customer base ages out of the product optimally, and even if
the
you
funny
have,
thing is,
even if you
they
have
can't age back
ages
into
out,
it.
it ages in.
Yeah.
But even if you have multiple children, you're only going to be buying diapers for a finite period of time. But if you've got all this data on how your kid is doing, then this gives them an opportunity to spin off products that they can then use to touch the family at different inflection points in
That's
spending.
the concern. CNN talked to Kathy Hirsch-Pasek, president of the International Society for Infant Studies. The more we have analytics on babies, the more we worry it actually matters that we've calculated this. This creates a frenetic feeling when you're a parent.
Yeah.
And that is the problem, which is you can get nutty.
From the data privacy side, I am always worried whenever one of these traditional companies seems to make a play for the Internet of Things, because yes, it's great to have the data. Do you know how to secure the data?
Yeah.
And increasingly that answer is no, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Well, I am just happy that I have found a panel that can have a hot take on every subject, including smart diapers. You guys, it's amazing. Lisa Schmeiser, always a pleasure. Thank you for joining us, editor at IT Pro Today.
Thank you very much.
Really appreciate you coming up. You held your own, Lexi. You're fantastic. Lexi Savitas is at CNET, where she covers consumer technology. Watch her videos. This wasn't too bad, was it?
This was a lot of fun.
You're
Thank
awesome.
you for having me.
Please come back. You were
I'd love
fantastic.
to. Thank you.
Father Robert, I ask you to come back every time you visit. We miss you, but it's great to see you again.
It's nice to be back. Although I'm going to be back again September 20th. I'm going to be hanging around Area 51 selling bottles of water.
Is that when we all are invading Area 51? I'm very excited about that.
We're going to do the Naruto run.
Yeah. It turns out those grasshoppers in Vegas, they're actually nanobots that are implanting cameras throughout the area.
I will send you pictures and video, because the beam from the Luxor is like a cricket magnet.
It's amazing. Yeah. I've seen videos of the crickets.
And the bats are out in force because it's like a buffet.
Oh my God! These poor Black Hat is in a week and a half.
I'll be there. I'll be there.
Is the cricket buffet a flat fee, or do you have to pay for per a la carte?
You know, you can eat crickets. You've eaten crickets.
I have
on the show.
They're very crunchy and flour. Yeah. I don't know why. It seems like a bad
My daughter
idea.
had them as like a school snack this year. That kind of blew my mind. Yeah. Again, crickets with
It's
barbecue
a hippie
sauce.
school. Yeah, that's definitely a hippie school.
That's not bad.
What's for school snack? Crickets. We do Twit every Sunday right after the radio show, about 2:30 Pacific. That's 5:30 Eastern Time, 21:30 UTC. We'd love to have you in studio. We had a great studio audience. You guys were fantastic. If you want to sit and watch us talk, you can. Just email tickets@twit.tv. We'll be glad to put a chair out for you. You can also watch wherever you are. Our live stream is audio and video. I'm not going to say anything about live streams again. At twit.tv/live. You can also see it on demand, audio and video, at our website, twit.tv. In fact, all our shows are available that way. Or subscribe. You know, if you get your favorite podcast application, you search for This Week in Tech. We're one of the longest running podcasts in the world. It'll be sure that you can get it there, subscribe, and then you won't miss an episode. We'll get it out to you the minute it's available. We thank you so much for joining us. And have a great week. We'll see you next time on Twit. Another Twit is in the can. Bye-bye.